The Andes awakened slowly at dawn, a jagged line of peaks cutting the sky, wrapped in mist that drifts like ancient spirits rising from the earth. The wind whistles through the canyons, carrying whispers of a time long forgotten, a civilization older than the pyramids of Egypt, yet shrouded in mystery. From above, the mountains appear eternal, untouched, yet beneath their rugged slopes lie secrets that challenge everything we thought we knew about human history. Historians once believed the cradle of civilization was Egypt or Mesopotamia. That monumental human achievement began along the Nile and Tigris. But the Andes, often overlooked, guard evidence of a people whose existence predates those famed lands by centuries, if not millennia. They left no written empire, no pharaohs with tombs full of gold, yet their presence is etched into stone, carved into terraces, tools, and tombs that defy imagination. The mountains themselves seem to hold their breath, as if waiting for someone daring enough to listen. Long before the Inca, before even the first stories of the pyramids, these people thrived in an environment so harsh that only the most ingenious could survive. How did they adapt to the cold, the thin air, the steep cliffs that would seem impossible to climb? How did they carve their cities into granite, align structures with the stars, and construct irrigation systems that still function thousands of years later? Every rock, every fragment of pottery, every skeletal remain holds a fragment of their story, but the full picture remains elusive, hidden beneath layers of earth, legend, and time. Early explorers spoke of strange ruins in valleys where no towns had existed, where the locals themselves whispered of ancestors whose knowledge surpassed memory. Some dismissed these tales as superstition, folklore spun to entertain travelers. Yet over time, stone by stone, these ruins began to reveal patterns, precision, and purpose. It was as if a civilization had risen and vanished in the blink of history, leaving only fragments that beckoned the curious and defied understanding. The Andes are not forgiving. Avalanches, earthquakes, and freezing winds guard these relics with relentless rigor. Yet, those who venture into the highlands discover terraces clinging to cliffs, channels carved to carry water with mathematical accuracy, and tombs filled with artifacts of exquisite craftsmanship. The further one climbs, the more the mountains themselves seem to whisper of human ambition, of lives devoted to mastery over nature, to reaching the heavens, and to the mysteries that define existence. Among these ruins lie skeletal remains, carefully arranged in ways that hint at rituals and beliefs. Some are buried with tools or adorned with ornaments that suggest status, power, or spiritual significance. These are not the haphazard graves of struggling nomads, but the considered resting places of a people who understood life, death, and the passage of time with astonishing clarity. And yet, these remains challenge modern understanding. Bones show evidence of unusual diets, advanced healing practices, and even forms of intentional modification that hint at a culture sophisticated in ways historians are only beginning to comprehend. The more researchers uncover, the stranger it becomes. Artifacts found in these high valleys seem impossibly advanced, crafted with precision that rivals modern tools. Stones interlock with no mortar, yet withstand centuries of seismic activity. Metals were alloyed in ways not thought possible for that era. Even the arrangement of certain ruins aligns with celestial events with an accuracy that would make contemporary astronomers pause. How did a civilization without written records or apparent contact with others achieve such mastery? And why was it forgotten, erased from the story we tell ourselves about human progress? Legends persist among the local people. Old tales speak of the children of the sun, who descended from the peaks with knowledge too dangerous or sacred to be shared. They built structures to honor the sky, the stars, and the mountains, leaving messages hidden in plain sight. Travelers who dared explore these heights often returned with stories tinged with awe and fear, recounting ruins that seemed to defy logic and nature itself. For every stone that is uncovered, for every artifact cataloged, there remains an unanswered question. Who were they, and why did they vanish so completely from the record of history? As we begin our journey into this forgotten civilization, we step not just into the Andes, but into the shadows of time itself. Every cliff face, every hidden valley, every whispering wind carries the echo of lives lived in ways that challenge our assumptions about the past. This is a story of ingenuity and mystery, of courage and devotion, of humans who thrived in an environment that would crush all but the most inventive. It is a story that demands attention, that provokes wonder, and that raises a chilling possibility that our history, as we know it, is incomplete, and that the Andes hold secrets powerful enough to change everything. And so, as the sun climbs higher over the peaks, revealing terraces and ruins carved into the rock, we begin to follow the faint traces left by a people whose story was almost lost to time. What we uncover will astonish, perplex, and move us. It will reveal a civilization capable of astonishing feats, living in harmony with nature, yet operating on a scale that challenges modern understanding. Every step forward is a step into the unknown, where every discovery is a whisper from a past that refuses to be forgotten. Long before maps carved the world into neat lines and kingdoms claimed their territories, the Andes held stories that no historian could fully record. Travelers who first ventured into these highlands often returned with tales of ruins unlike any known civilization. Valleys hidden by clouds and fog revealed terraces, platforms, and walls of stone so precisely cut that modern engineers still struggle to replicate them. Yet, the people who had built them had vanished centuries before, leaving no written word, no heralded leader, no record in the annals of the known world. Only whispers remained, echoes of a civilization whose memory seemed deliberately erased. In the early 16th century, European explorers arrived, chasing legends of gold, silver, and kingdoms of unimaginable wealth. They stumbled upon stone structures jutting from the mountains, their purpose hidden, their origin unclear. Indigenous guides spoke of these ruins with reverence and fear, hinting at ancestors whose knowledge exceeded ordinary human capability. Some claimed that the ruins were sacred, that stepping within them invited misfortune. Yet others recounted stories passed down through generations of civilization that had thrived long before the Incas, whose wisdom and artistry rivaled anything found in the Old World. Artifacts found scattered across these remote regions only deepened the mystery. Fragments of pottery, stone carvings, and jewelry hinted at a society that celebrated both the earth and the heavens. Intricate designs suggested rituals of worship, astronomy, and mathematics. Some symbols appeared in alignment with celestial events, solstices, equinoxes, eclipses, suggesting a level of sophistication that historians never expected from a civilization isolated in rugged mountains. Each discovery seemed to challenge the linear timeline of human development, as if the Andes were holding a mirror to a past deliberately hidden from history. The more explorers and archaeologists investigated, the more contradictions emerged. Certain ruins bore stylistic similarities to other ancient civilizations, yet were separated by thousands of miles and centuries. Some stonework demonstrated precision so advanced it defied the supposed technology of the era. Skeletal remains revealed dietary patterns, health practices, and genetic traits that hinted an interconnected world, or a society so advanced it had solved problems that other civilizations would struggle with for millennia. The Andes were no longer just a remote landscape. They were a puzzle, a riddle carved in stone, waiting for those brave enough to decipher it. Local myths added another layer to the mystery. Stories told of people of the mist, beings who could move through mountains and valleys with uncanny agility, who taught humans techniques of farming, construction, and healing before disappearing. Some legends spoke of massive floods or divine wrath, wiping entire populations from memory. Others hinted at knowledge so sacred that it could not survive in the hands of ordinary humans. These tales, dismissed by early scholars as fanciful folklore, are now being reconsidered in light of archaeological evidence that cannot be ignored. Perhaps myth and history were never separate in the Andes. Perhaps they were two sides of the same coin, preserving the memory of a vanished civilization in ways that only the land itself could testify. European explorers documented their astonishment. Chronicles describe walls that fit together without mortar, terraces that clung to impossibly steep slopes, and channels carrying water across miles of rocky terrain. Some artifacts, transported to Europe, baffled collectors. They seemed advanced, precise, and beautiful, yet no comparable civilization was known in that part of the world at the time. These early encounters sparked a quiet debate. Had humanity's origins been misunderstood, or were these ruins the relics of a forgotten society, wiped from history before it could leave a written record? But the Andes did not yield their secrets easily. Landslides, earthquakes, and volcanic activity buried entire cities. Dense forests and sheer cliffs hid sites for centuries. Even modern technology has only scratched the surface, revealing patterns in stone and earth that suggest careful planning, astronomical observation, and social organization. Each new discovery feels like a key turned in a lock, yet the door remains mostly closed. Scholars and explorers alike are drawn into the mystery, facing both frustration and awe as they piece together the lives of a people who seem determined to vanish from history. What makes this civilization even more compelling is the sense of deliberate concealment, whether by nature or design. Certain ruins are placed in locations that are almost inaccessible, suggesting the builders understood the protective power of isolation. Others are aligned with natural phenomena, suggesting knowledge of the seasons, the stars, and the mountains' rhythms. Even artifacts hint at symbolic language, as if communication itself was encrypted in pottery, carvings, and ceremonial objects. There's a feeling that these people intended to leave messages for those who could understand them, messages that are only now slowly being uncovered. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect is how little we truly know. For every ruin mapped, there are countless others hidden, eroded, or destroyed. For every artifact cataloged, there are pieces yet to emerge from the earth. The story of this civilization is fragmented, glimpsed only through scattered clues. Yet the fragments speak volumes of a society that valued harmony with nature, that mastered engineering, agriculture, and astronomy, and that understood the fragility and power of human life in a way that resonates even today. As we journey further into this forgotten world, the Andes themselves become a character in the story. The peaks guard the ruins, conceal the tombs, and shelter the remnants of a civilization older than Egypt. The wind carries the voices of ancestors. The mountains echo with footsteps of those long gone. Every terrace, every carved stone, every hidden artifact is a testament to human ingenuity, courage, and the desire to leave a mark that transcends time. This is more than archaeology. It is a confrontation with memory, myth, and the limits of human knowledge. The ruins challenge our understanding of civilization, forcing us to question what we consider possible. They beckon us to imagine lives lived in devotion to the sky, the earth, and the mysteries that define existence. And in doing so, they demand that we follow the echoes of this unknown world, piece together its stories, and uncover truths that could alter our perception of history forever. Beneath the shadow of the towering Andes, in valleys shrouded by mist and silence, archaeologists have uncovered graves that whisper stories of a people lost to time. The soil is cold, the air thin, yet within these ancient tombs lie the remains of humans who walked these mountains thousands of years before the Inca, before Egypt's pyramids dominated the imagination of the world. Each skeleton tells a story of survival, ingenuity, and a society whose complexity modern scholars are only beginning to grasp. The burials are meticulous, not chaotic. Bodies are often placed with care, arranged in specific positions that suggest ritual significance or spiritual belief. Some are adorned with ornaments made of gold, copper, or intricately carved stone. Others are buried with tools, implements for farming, crafting, or ceremonial purposes, hinting at a life of skill and devotion. These are not the haphazard remains of wanderers or nomads. They're the carefully remembered dead of a people who understood the passage of life, the weight of death, and the importance of legacy. Examination of the bones reveals astonishing details. Many show evidence of advanced nutrition and remarkable health for their time, suggesting sophisticated agriculture and knowledge of medicinal plants. Healed fractures and surgical modifications appear in ways that hint at medical understanding far beyond what European explorers would later credit to indigenous peoples. Some skulls even display intentional cranial shaping, a practice thought to signify social status, spiritual preparation, or a connection to ancestors. These physical traces tell us not just about biology, but about a culture deeply concerned with identity, belief, and the transcendence of the human body. Yet there are mysteries that confound modern science. Certain remains indicate lifestyles adapted to extreme high-altitude conditions, strong cardiovascular systems, robust bone density, and evidence of metabolic adjustments that allowed survival in harsh environments. These are people who thrived where few could endure, sculpting terraces into mountainsides, channeling glacial meltwater into farms, and constructing shelters that would withstand earthquakes and freezing winds. Their very bodies testify to a civilization capable of extraordinary adaptation. Among the graves, archaeologists have found symbolic objects that hint at complex belief systems. Small figurines, beads, and engraved stones suggest reverence for gods, spirits, or natural forces. Some burials contain items aligned with the stars, indicating an understanding of astronomy intertwined with rituals of death and renewal. The placement of the dead, the offerings accompanying them, and the orientation of tombs all point to a society that viewed life, death, and the cosmos as inseparable threads in a vast tapestry of existence. Perhaps the most haunting discovery is the sense of deliberate concealment. Many burial sites are tucked into hidden caves, behind cliffs, or beneath layers of earth. Some appear designed to be discovered only by those who knew their location, suggesting that the knowledge of life and death, of sacred spaces, was intentionally guarded. It is as if this civilization anticipated being forgotten, leaving behind traces for the few who might one day seek understanding. Every uncovered skeleton becomes a messenger, a fragment of a story deliberately scattered through time. In some cases, graves reveal evidence of ritual sacrifice, a practice that, while shocking to modern sensibilities, reflects profound spiritual conviction. Bodies show signs of ceremonial preparation, careful placement, and offerings meant to honor deities or natural forces. These sacrifices were not acts of cruelty, but of devotion, attempts to maintain harmony between human society and the unpredictable world around them. They remind us that human life, even in the ancient Andes, was both precious and profoundly intertwined with belief and purpose. The discovery of multiple generations buried in close proximity offers glimpses into social structure and continuity. Families, leaders, and artisans rested in designated areas, revealing a hierarchy, roles, and communal values that echoed across centuries. Children's graves, often accompanied by toys or miniature tools, speak to affection and foresight, suggesting a culture that cherished youth and prepared them for the challenges of mountain life. Every skeleton is a voice from the past, speaking across millennia of connection, responsibility, and identity. Yet even as we study these remains, questions multiply. Why did this civilization, so advanced and resilient, ultimately vanish? Did environmental shifts overwhelm them, or were they displaced by rival societies? Were there catastrophes we have yet to uncover, floods, earthquakes, or disease, that erased their cities from memory? The bones alone cannot answer, but they hint at lives of courage, creativity, and tenacity. They whisper of a people who lived fully, adapted brilliantly, and left marks on the world that still astonish us today. As we piece together the puzzle, one skeletal fragment at a time, we are forced to confront a humbling truth. History is fragile. What survives is often only a shadow, a hint, or a fragment of the whole story. The Andes conceals secrets that challenge conventional timelines, suggesting a civilization that mastered both survival and sophistication in ways modern scholars scarcely imagine. Each grave uncovered is a bridge across millennia, connecting us to humans who faced extreme conditions with intelligence, faith, and artistry. The mountains themselves seem to guard these remnants, as if aware that the story of the forgotten is too fragile for casual observation. Mist drifts across terraces and tombs, clouds swirl around cliffs, and wind hums through valleys with an eerie resonance, carrying the memory of lives lived, of sacrifices made, of knowledge that may have been too powerful to survive. The silence of the Andes is not empty. It is filled with echoes, urging us to listen, to understand, to recognize the resilience and ingenuity of those who came before. Standing among these graves, one cannot help but feel a profound emotional connection. This is not just archaeology. It is a confrontation with mortality, memory, and human legacy. These bones are more than relics. They are testimony of a civilization that challenged nature, mastered ingenuity, and faced existence with courage, yet whose story has been nearly lost. The Andes whisper their secrets, and for those willing to hear, the dead speak louder than the living ever could. And so, as we continue this journey, we carry with us not only artifacts and ruins, but the echoes of lives long vanished, their whispers beckoning us deeper into a world older than we have imagined. The bones of the forgotten are not silent. They are the first voices of a story that refuses to die, a story that will shape our understanding of human history, identity, and the resilience of civilization itself. Among the terraces and ruins of the Andes lie tools that seem to defy the ages. Carved from stone, bone, and metal, they are both functional and astonishingly precise, hinting at a level of craftsmanship that challenges everything we thought we knew about ancient technology. Some chisels and blades fit so perfectly with the stone they shaped that modern engineers have struggled to replicate them without sophisticated machinery. Each artifact is a testament to human ingenuity and a whisper from a civilization that mastered both artistry and engineering long before history gave them a name. The tools vary widely: stone hammers, copper chisels, intricate weaving implements, and agricultural devices designed for the steepest mountainsides. Many show we're consistent with generations of use, indicating not only durability, but also an understanding of material science. Archaeologists examining these objects have noted something remarkable. The Andes' early inhabitants developed techniques that allowed them to shape incredibly hard stone with limited energy, often achieving precision that rivals modern methods. It is a silent challenge to the assumption that technological sophistication is always linear or dependent on written knowledge. Some tools are encased with metals, mixed in ways that modern metallurgists struggle to explain. Copper alloys, bronze-like mixtures, and even strange combinations of gold with other metals suggest experimentation, trial, and remarkable understanding of chemical properties. In several cases, artifacts show evidence of treatments to harden or sharpen them in ways that should have been impossible for a society without smelting furnaces of European scale. These discoveries hint at knowledge either lost over millennia or developed independently in ways historians have underestimated. Agricultural tools reveal an astonishing practicality. Terraces cut into mountainsides were maintained with simple yet brilliant devices that maximize productivity while preventing erosion. Irrigation systems were operated with tools designed for precision, distributing water evenly across hundreds of meters of stone channels. The early Andean people understood physics and hydrology in ways that modern engineers can barely appreciate, blending innovation with harmony. Each tool, each implement, tells a story of humans adapting to one of the harshest environments on Earth and thriving with elegance and intelligence. What is even more extraordinary is that some tools appear almost ceremonial, blurring the line between utility and ritual. Certain chisels are engraved with patterns, symbols, or glyphs, suggesting a purpose beyond the mundane. Were they used in sacred construction? To carve messages into stone that only initiates could read? The combination of functionality and symbolism hints at a society that saw work itself as an extension of belief, a way to honor the earth, the sky, and their place within the cosmos. Even the simplest hammer or blade may have been imbued with meaning, transforming labor into ritual. These tools were not limited to stonework or agriculture. Archaeologists have discovered implements that suggest knowledge of medicine, astronomy, and craft. Bone needles, grinding stones, and intricate carving knives point to sophisticated textile production, pottery, and even early forms of surgery. Some implements show were patterns consistent with delicate procedures, hinting at medical practices far ahead of their time. The Andes were not merely a place of survival. They were a laboratory of human creativity and adaptation, a workshop where innovation met necessity and precision met vision. In the high valleys, evidence of quarrying shows that stone blocks were cut, shaped, and transported with techniques that still puzzle researchers. Stones weighing several tons were moved, carved, and assembled into walls that fit together with near-perfect precision. How did early Andean civilizations achieve this without the wheel, large beasts of burden, or advanced machinery? The tools themselves provide a partial answer. They are elegant in design, effective in function, and perfectly suited for the environment in which they were used. They were extensions of human skill, bridging imagination with reality. Even more intriguing are the traces of experimentation found on some artifacts. Tool marks on stones suggest methods that appear experimental, as if the builders were testing techniques, learning through trial, and refining their craft over generations. This hints at an intentional pursuit of mastery, an understanding that innovation requires patience, observation, and adaptation. These were not mere survival tools. They were instruments of progress, crafted by people deeply committed to perfecting their art, their labor, and their understanding of the world around them. Some tools remain inexplicably advanced. Certain metal implements display hardness, flexibility, and intricate detailing that modern metallurgy struggles to replicate without computer-assisted design. Others bear engravings aligned with celestial events, suggesting an intersection between craftsmanship and astronomy. The Andean people were not simply building or farming. They were inscribing knowledge, recording experience, and interacting with the universe through the instruments they wielded. In this way, tools were not only practical. They were vehicles of understanding, conduits through which humans engaged with the cosmos itself. And yet, as advanced as these tools were, the civilization that made them vanished. Stones were left in unfinished terraces, metalwork abandoned in workshops, and instruments buried alongside the dead. What caused the sudden disappearance of such skill and knowledge remains a mystery. Did environmental catastrophe, social upheaval, or invasion cut short their ingenuity? Or was their disappearance more subtle, a slow fading into legend and memory? The tools remain as silent witnesses, waiting for those who will decipher their secrets, revealing a story that challenges the foundations of what we believe about human capability. The mystery deepens when comparing these tools to those found in other ancient civilizations. Certain stone-cutting techniques, alloy compositions, and precision carving have no known parallel in Egypt or Mesopotamia at the time. It raises a profound question. Were the Andes an isolated hub of innovation, or part of a wider, forgotten network of advanced civilizations? The tools themselves offer tantalizing hints, suggesting mastery developed independently, yet resonating with a universal understanding of material, labor, and celestial harmony. In this way, the artifacts are more than tools. They are bridges across millennia. Each chisel, blade, or ornamental implement connects us to a culture of vision, precision, and purpose. They embody resilience, intellect, and creativity, reminding us that human ingenuity has long defied expectation. By studying these objects, we glimpse not only what these people could do, but how they thought, what they valued, and how they interacted with the world around them. The Andes continue to guard these tools, hidden in ruins, tunnels, and terraces. They speak softly, insisting that those who listen must look closely, think carefully, and honor the intelligence of a people who lived long before the world recorded their achievements. Every discovery challenges our assumptions, compelling us to ask, what other knowledge has been buried, lost, or overlooked? What other tools, ideas, and innovations remain hidden, waiting for someone brave enough to uncover them? As we move deeper into the mountains, following the evidence left by this forgotten civilization, the tools serve as guides. They tell a story of ingenuity, adaptation, and creativity. They reveal a society that saw no boundary between labor and intellect, between survival and art. And in the silent echo of stone against metal, of chisel against rock, we hear the heartbeat of a civilization that refuses to be forgotten. Amid the rugged peaks and hidden valleys of the Andes, the remnants of a vanished civilization speak not only through stone and metal, but through art, intricate, symbolic, and profoundly evocative. From delicate pottery to carved stone reliefs, from textiles dyed with colors that have survived millennia to geometric patterns etched into temple walls, each piece reflects a culture that saw beauty, meaning, and purpose as inseparable. These artifacts are more than decoration. They are expressions of thought, spirituality, and human ingenuity preserved against the eroding forces of time. Pottery, for instance, is a window into both daily life and belief. Vessels show scenes of agriculture, ritual, and celestial observation, often with details that suggest far-reaching knowledge of anatomy, astronomy, and ecology. Animals, humans, and abstract symbols appear intertwined, hinting at a worldview where every element of nature and society was connected. The precision, symmetry, and creativity displayed in these objects suggest a culture that not only valued function, but celebrated aesthetic mastery as a pathway to understanding existence itself. Stone carvings offer another glimpse into the Andean mind. Walls, monuments, and ceremonial platforms bear images of deities, animals, and geometric symbols aligned with cosmic patterns. Some carvings seem to encode astronomical knowledge, mapping the stars or marking solstices and equinoxes. Others appear almost cryptic, their meaning lost to us, but intentionally preserved by their creators. Scholars have debated whether these carvings represent language, mathematics, or spiritual instruction, but one thing is clear: they were not random. Each line and curve was deliberate, a careful act of communication across time. Textiles preserved in caves or tombs reveal a mastery of technique and storytelling. Woven patterns illustrate myths, genealogies, and historical events, transforming cloth into a living archive. Colors, achieved through plant dyes and mineral pigments, retain vibrancy even after thousands of years, suggesting an advanced understanding of chemistry and preservation. These textiles were portable, durable, and deeply symbolic, perhaps serving both as clothing and as carriers of knowledge, connecting generations through artistry. Even small artifacts, jewelry, figurines, ceremonial objects, carry layers of meaning. Gold and copper were worked with exquisite skill, forming shapes that suggest both utility and ritual significance. Some objects appear deliberately enigmatic, designed to provoke reflection or convey hidden knowledge only accessible to the initiated. The care and intention behind each creation underscore a culture that saw art as inseparable from the sacred, a medium through which humans could interact with the universe and leave a mark that would outlast generations. A particularly haunting element of this art is the interplay of visibility and concealment. Many murals and carvings are located in places difficult to access: cliff faces, high terraces, or interior chambers of temples hidden from plain sight. It is as if the creators intended that their work be discovered only by those who sought it carefully, by those capable of reading its deeper meaning. This deliberate positioning transforms art into a bridge across time, a secret conversation with those who would come centuries later, daring them to decipher its wisdom. The symbolic complexity of these creations suggests a civilization profoundly connected to cycles of nature and human experience. Animal motifs, birds, jaguars, llamas, are not mere decoration. They reflect spiritual beliefs, social hierarchies, and ecological awareness. Recurrent geometric patterns may encode astronomical observations, agricultural calendars, or metaphysical concepts. In every brushstroke, carved line, or woven thread, there is a duality of function and meaning, practical, yet transcendent, anchored in daily life, yet pointing toward the infinite. What makes this artistic legacy even more compelling is its universality. Despite isolation and rugged mountains, the art reflects themes that resonate across cultures and continents. The balance of life and death, the cycles of nature, the awe of celestial phenomena, and the drive to leave a lasting imprint. The Andean people, though distant in time and geography, shared with humanity a desire to understand and express existence. Their creativity transcends mere survival, signaling a society that saw the world as a canvas and life as an opportunity for both comprehension and expression. Yet, as awe-inspiring as this art is, it also deepens the mystery of disappearance. Many of these works predate known civilizations, and some reveal technical skill and knowledge unexpected for the era. How did a people living in isolated highlands develop such sophisticated artistic methods? Who taught them? And why did these techniques vanish when the civilization itself faded from memory? Each artifact is a testament to brilliance, yet also a challenge, teasing scholars with unanswered questions that linger like shadows among the mountains. The emotional resonance of these creations is undeniable. They provoke awe, curiosity, and empathy, allowing us to connect with people long gone. A carved figure may reflect a ritual we cannot fully comprehend. A textile pattern may tell a story we cannot entirely read. And yet, even in their partial mystery, these objects speak to a profound truth. The human creativity is enduring, capable of bridging millennia, and that the Andes preserve a culture whose intellect, spirit, and artistry rival the greatest known civilizations. As we stand before these relics, we sense the presence of lives that once animated the highlands, the laughter of children, the devotion of artisans, the meticulous care of priests and leaders. Every object, every pattern, every carving is a message sent across centuries, waiting for someone willing to listen. They whisper of hope, of reverence, of survival, and of the longing to leave something eternal behind. In the silence of these mountains, the art of the ancients continues to speak, urging us to seek, to learn, and to marvel at a civilization whose genius the world is only beginning to understand. The Andes rise like sentinels over the earth, jagged spires and rolling valleys carved by eons of wind, ice, and volcanic fury. To the casual observer, they're majestic and remote, a harsh and unyielding landscape. But to the forgotten civilization that thrived here, the mountains were more than terrain. They were memory itself. Every ridge, cliff, and valley was a repository of knowledge, a sacred canvas upon which humans etched their ingenuity, belief, and survival. The mountains were alive, and the people understood their language in ways that modern explorers can scarcely imagine. From the earliest settlements, humans adapted to the steep slopes, learning to read the contours of the land as a text. Terraces carved into cliffs were not only agricultural marvels, but also statements of understanding. Engineering, soil preservation, and water management combined with an intimate respect for nature's rhythms. The mountains dictated life, where to build, where to farm, where to bury the dead. Each decision reflected an intimate dialogue with the environment, a negotiation between human ambition and the enduring wisdom of stone and soil. Water, the lifeblood of these highlands, was channeled through terraces, canals, and reservoirs with astonishing precision. Rain, snowmelt, and glacial runoff were directed across fields, sustaining crops that fed entire communities. Every irrigation channel and cistern was a carefully considered adaptation, shaped by trial, observation, and a profound understanding of the landscape. In the high Andes, survival was not merely about endurance. It was about reading the mountains, predicting their moods, and harmonizing human activity with the forces of nature. The sacred dimension of the mountains was woven into daily life. Peaks were not mere backdrops. They were deities, sentinels, and ancestors. Certain mountains were revered above others, considered to house spirits that guided or protected communities. Rituals were performed on terraces or cliff edges, offerings left in hidden shrines, and astronomical observations conducted from elevated vantage points. The alignment of structures with sunrises, sunsets, and star patterns suggests a civilization attuned not only to survival, but to cosmic harmony, viewing the mountains as intermediaries between earth and sky. Explorers who first documented the highlands noted an uncanny precision in how settlements interacted with the terrain. Villages were strategically placed to maximize sunlight, shelter from wind, and access to water. Yet each site also respected sacred contours, preserving natural features deemed spiritually significant. Pathways winding across slopes were meticulously planned, connecting communities while avoiding dangerous cliffs or unstable terrain. The landscape itself became a living archive, preserving memory, culture, and knowledge for those who could read it. Burial sites, too, reflect this reverence for the mountains. Graves were often carved into cliffs or hidden in valleys, aligned with celestial phenomena or geographic markers. Bodies were positioned carefully, sometimes accompanied by tools or ornaments intended for use in the afterlife, and always placed in harmony with the surrounding terrain. These resting places suggest a belief in continuity between the living and the dead, humans and spirits, and earth and sky. In this way, the mountains functioned as both protector and storyteller, preserving the lives and knowledge of the civilization long after its disappearance. Archaeological evidence suggests that the people of the Andes developed a unique relationship with natural forces. Seismic activity, avalanches, and glacial movements shaped not only their physical settlements, but their cultural practices. By observing the mountains, they learned patterns of risk and reward, creating terraces that could survive landslides and channels that adapted to changing water flows. They recognized that survival required respect, intelligence, and adaptability, a philosophy encoded in their architecture, art, and rituals. The concept of memory extended beyond survival to spiritual and societal organization. The mountains were a calendar, a compass, and a stage for ceremonial life. Temples, plazas, and shrines were situated with awareness of solar and lunar cycles, as well as astronomical alignments. Certain peaks marked equinoxes or solstices, allowing precise predictions of planting and harvesting times. The people were, in effect, translating the language of the mountains into tools, rituals, and structures that ensured both prosperity and cultural continuity. Even in their engineering, there is evidence of foresight and planning that suggests collective memory was crucial. Knowledge of terrace construction, irrigation maintenance, and astronomical observation was passed down, encoded in physical landscapes as well as oral tradition. This knowledge, built into the mountains themselves, acted as a form of cultural insurance. Even when populations shifted, the terraces, channels, and shrines continued to teach and sustain those who followed, ensuring that the wisdom of the ancients endured. The emotional resonance of this interaction between humans and mountains is palpable. Standing on a terrace carved into a sheer cliff, gazing at peaks shrouded in mist, one feels the connection that these ancient people must have felt, a mixture of humility, reverence, and awe. Their lives were intertwined with the terrain in ways we can scarcely replicate today. They listened, observed, and acted with patience, understanding that every slope, every boulder, and every stream carried lessons. Yet the mountains, also hide mysteries. Buried terraces, collapsed structures, and forgotten shrines suggest knowledge lost over time, secrets encoded in stone and soil that remain only partially understood. Some alignments, patterns, and constructions defy modern explanation, hinting at insights into astronomy, agriculture, or spirituality that have yet to be deciphered. The Andes themselves, as enduring witnesses, guard these secrets with patience, offering only fragments to those willing to search and contemplate. In this way, the mountains are both memory and messenger. They preserve the ingenuity, beliefs, and resilience of a civilization older than most historians have recognized. By walking their paths, observing their terraces, and uncovering their hidden shrines, we are not merely exploring geography. We are entering a dialogue with time itself, tracing the steps, thoughts, and aspirations of a people who understood that the earth itself could record their existence. As we continue to explore the forgotten civilization of the Andes, it becomes clear that their genius lies not only in tools, art, or architecture, but in their relationship with the mountains. These peaks were teachers, guides, and guardians. Every carved terrace, every hidden shrine, every carefully positioned structure is a testament to a culture that recognized the power of place and memory, leaving behind a landscape that continues to speak, challenge, and inspire centuries later. High above the valleys, where the air thins and the wind cuts through cliffs, the Andean civilization looked to the heavens as both guide and deity. The sun, the moon, and the stars were not distant ornaments in the sky. They were central to life, woven into agriculture, architecture, ritual, and the rhythm of existence. Observing the heavens with precision, this forgotten culture aligned cities, temples, and observatories with celestial events, creating a dialogue between Earth and cosmos that modern science is only beginning to comprehend. Archaeologists have discovered structures whose orientation corresponds precisely with solstices, equinoxes, and stellar alignments. Certain terraces and ceremonial platforms catch the first light of the rising sun at specific times of year, signaling planting or harvest cycles. Others track lunar phases or the movement of constellations critical to seasonal predictions. These observations were not casual. They reflect centuries of careful measurement, a culture deeply invested in understanding cosmic patterns and integrating them seamlessly into daily life. The sun, revered as the giver of life, played a central role in rituals and ceremonies. Temples, often situated on elevated terraces or cliff edges, were constructed to maximize solar alignment during key moments of the year. At sunrise on the solstice, beams of light would illuminate sacred altars or carvings, creating a spectacle of natural and human ingenuity combined. Such precision suggests a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and geometry, as well as a spiritual worldview that honored the sun as both sustainer and symbol of cosmic order. Beyond solar worship, the Andean people were attentive to the stars. Constellations and stellar movements were mapped across the sky, serving both practical and spiritual functions. They guided travelers, informed agricultural decisions, and acted as omens in ritual practice. Certain carvings and artifacts appear to mirror celestial arrangements, encoding astronomical knowledge in ways that blend art, religion, and science. It is a level of sophistication that challenges assumptions about isolated ancient civilizations, suggesting a people who observe the cosmos not only with curiosity, but with methodical precision. Even the moon played a vital role. Lunar cycles influence planting, harvesting, and ritual timing, offering a secondary layer of guidance alongside the sun. Some ceremonial sites appear designed to capture the glow of the moon, casting light on sacred spaces and patterns that repeat with astonishing consistency over centuries. These observations hint at a society that measured time, life, and spirituality not in days or months alone, but in the subtle rhythms of celestial motion, integrating the cosmos into every facet of existence. Artifacts further reflect this cosmic connection. Carvings, pottery, and textiles often feature symbols representing stars, planets, or astronomical phenomena. Some patterns are abstract, yet seem to encode information about cycles, alignments, or sacred numbers. Others depict scenes of celestial events intertwined with human or animal figures, suggesting myths or stories that link earthly and cosmic realms. These artifacts reveal a civilization that did not separate art, science, and religion. They were part of an integrated worldview, expressed materially and observed carefully for centuries. Perhaps most striking is the integration of celestial knowledge with architecture. Buildings were constructed to interact with light and shadow at precise times, creating patterns that communicated meaning, celebrated seasonal changes, or marked significant events. Certain terraces catch sunlight only on the longest day of the year. Shadow lines fall across specific walls or carvings, signaling hidden messages or ceremonial significance. It is a harmony of function, spirituality, and artistry that few civilizations, even thousands of years later, have achieved. The implications of these discoveries are profound. They suggest that this Andean civilization, often overlooked in historical timelines, possessed astronomical knowledge comparable to, and in some cases exceeding, contemporaneous cultures in distant lands. Without telescopes, modern instruments, or written records, they tracked cycles, predicted events, and encoded observations in both physical landscapes and artifacts. This raises questions about knowledge transmission, independent innovation, and the ways civilizations develop understanding in isolation. Yet the connection between earth and sky is not purely intellectual. It is emotional and spiritual. Standing on a terrace as sunlight floods a sacred platform, or as constellations rise in perfect alignment, one can sense the awe and reverence the ancient people must have felt. Their lives were guided by observation, ritual, and belief, entwining survival, spirituality, and wonder into a seamless experience. The heavens were both guide and guardian, offering wisdom to those willing to look, measure, and honor their messages. This celestial mastery also hints at a hidden purpose, to leave a lasting legacy that survives the ravages of time. Alignments, carvings, and observatories were not merely functional. They were messages, whispers across centuries for those capable of understanding. The mountains, terraces, and artifacts together form a celestial map, a story of humans who observed with precision, interpreted with care, and encoded knowledge in ways that endure far beyond their lifetimes. And yet, as extraordinary as this knowledge is, it deepens the mystery. How did a society, seemingly isolated in rugged mountains, achieve such sophistication in astronomy without written records or known cultural exchange? How much has been lost, hidden in terraces, buried in tombs, or eroded by centuries of wind, rain, and seismic activity? Each discovery answers some questions while raising new ones, keeping the allure of the unknown alive. In contemplating this, one begins to sense the philosophy that guided the civilization. Life was measured, observed, and aligned with the cosmos. Humans, mountains, and stars existed in a dynamic relationship, each reflecting and informing the other. Knowledge was preserved not only in objects, but in landscape, in patterns of light and shadow, and in the rhythm of daily life. This integration of heaven and earth, of observation and ritual, of science and spirituality, defines the genius of the Andean people and offers lessons still relevant today. As the sun sets behind the peaks, casting long shadows across terraces and ruins, the mystery deepens. The knowledge of this civilization is written not only in artifacts, but in the very geometry of the mountains, in light and shadow, and in patterns that persist across millennia. By studying these alignments, we do not simply learn about astronomy. We glimpse the worldview of a people who understood their place in the cosmos and expressed it through architecture, ritual, and art. The Andes, silent yet eloquent, continue to guard their secrets. They remind us that knowledge is often hidden, encoded in ways that require patience, reverence, and insight to uncover. The sun, the stars, and the shadows speak across time, offering fragments of understanding to those willing to seek them. And as we continue our journey into the forgotten civilization, we realize that the heavens themselves were partners in human endeavor, silent witnesses to ingenuity, devotion, and the desire to leave a mark upon the world that endures even in absence. In the Andes, stone is not merely material. It is a language, a record, and a testament. Across steep terraces, hidden valleys, and windswept peaks, walls and monoliths whisper stories that written words cannot capture. Every carved surface, every interlocking block, every channel etched into rock is a sentence, a message, or a symbol conveying knowledge, ritual, and culture across centuries. To the untrained eye, these stones might appear as simple construction. To those who study them, they are eloquent testimony to a civilization's intellect, devotion, and precision. The precision of Andean masonry is staggering. Massive blocks, some weighing several tons, fit together so perfectly that not even a thin blade can be inserted between them. There is no mortar, yet the walls withstand earthquakes that would topple modern structures. This is not mere engineering. It is communication through craft. The cuts, angles, and joints reflect understanding of geometry, structural integrity, and aesthetics. Each wall tells a story of problem-solving, collaboration, and mastery of environment, translating abstract knowledge in a tangible, enduring form. Stone channels, carved to channel water across terraces, reveal a sophisticated grasp of hydrology. These are not haphazard ditches, but precisely angled conduits designed to distribute life-sustaining water evenly, prevent erosion, and adapt to seasonal variations. The creators of these channels understood not just physical principles, but the delicate balance of ecosystems, human needs, and environmental stewardship. In stone, they encoded instructions and wisdom, a practical and symbolic testament to coexistence with nature. But the language of stone is not limited to survival. Temples, ceremonial platforms, and shrines are carved with symbols, glyphs, and reliefs whose meaning continues to elude scholars. Some suggest astronomical observations, others point to spiritual rituals, and yet others appear to encode knowledge of medicine, agriculture, or social hierarchy. The repeated geometric patterns, spirals, and interlocking shapes suggest a symbolic system as sophisticated as any written script, a visual language designed to convey complex ideas across generations. Even small stone artifacts carry meaning. Figurines, ceremonial knives, and engraved stones are miniature texts in themselves. Their designs encode stories, myths, and instructions for rituals or social practice. Some artifacts depict sequences, possibly calendars or narratives of celestial events. Others are abstract, demanding interpretation through cultural, environmental, or spiritual context. The language of stone is multidimensional, functional, symbolic, and aesthetic, all at once, reflecting the holistic worldview of the Andean people. What is most remarkable is the continuity of this language across vast regions and centuries. Stones from widely separated sites show similar techniques, patterns, and symbols, suggesting shared knowledge, communication networks, or cultural coherence. Despite geographic isolation, these people transmitted understanding, maintaining stylistic, functional, and spiritual consistency in architecture and art. Stone became the medium through which civilization communicated across generations, ensuring that knowledge survived even when oral traditions faded or communities dispersed. Some walls and carvings are deliberately enigmatic. Certain blocks seem positioned to create shadows that fall in precise patterns at specific times of year, while others align with distant peaks or celestial markers. These choices suggest intentional encoding, a cryptic dialogue between builders and observers, between past and future. To read these stones is not to decode words, but to interpret geometry, light, shadow, and pattern, a multidimensional language that blends science, spirituality, and artistry. The emotional resonance of stone is profound. Standing before a massive wall whose blocks interlock with impossible precision, one senses the patience, skill, and vision required to craft it. Each joint is a promise of resilience, each engraving a testament to thought and devotion. Stone carries the weight not only of physical mass, but of memory, identity, and human ambition. Through it, the civilization speaks of endurance, intellect, and reverence for the world they inhabited. Mystery deepens when one considers tools versus results. Many stone structures appear beyond the capabilities of simple bronze or stone implements, suggesting either lost technologies, unknown techniques, or an extraordinary understanding of physics and leverage. The language of stone may be, in part, a record of experimental knowledge, trials embedded in terraces, walls, and channels, waiting to be understood. Every misaligned block, every eroded glyph, every terrace shift is a punctuation mark in this story, a lesson in human ingenuity and adaptability. The stones also link the spiritual and physical worlds. Some constructions are deliberately aligned with mountains, rivers, or celestial bodies, merging function with sacred symbolism. A wall is not merely a barrier, it is a prayer. A terrace is not merely farmland, it is a stage for cosmic alignment. The language of stone is inseparable from the worldview that produced it, a worldview in which humans, earth, and sky are in continuous dialogue, and in which survival, devotion, and expression are one. Even now, centuries after abandonment, the language speaks. Wind and rain erode surfaces, yet some symbols remain remarkably clear, hinting at durability not just of material, but of meaning. Researchers decipher patterns, alignments, and symbolic gestures, but always with humility, aware that each interpretation is partial. The stones guard their secrets, offering fragments that challenge assumptions, inspire awe, and compel further exploration. In this dialogue, the observer becomes part of the story. Walking terraces, tracing channels, or examining carvings, one participates in a conversation across millennia. The ancient people speak through stone, asking us to see, to think, and to understand. Their messages are subtle, layered, and intentional. They convey not just practical knowledge, but philosophy, values, and an enduring vision of civilization. The language of stone is, above all, a reminder of human potential. It shows what is possible when intellect, labor, spirituality, and environment converge. It tells us that civilizations can encode knowledge, belief, and artistry into materials that endure far longer than their creators. And it invites reflection. If this culture, older than most recorded history, could communicate so profoundly through stone, what other wisdom might lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered? The Andes remain silent, yet eloquent teachers. Each terrace, wall, and engraved monolith carries messages meant to be read across time, requiring patience, observation, and reverence. They remind us that human creativity and intelligence are not bound by time, that understanding can be preserved in form as well as words, and that even a vanished civilization can continue to speak, challenge, and inspire those who take the time to listen. In the high valleys and cliffside terraces of the Andes, the forgotten civilization expressed devotion not only through stone, art, and astronomy, but through elemental rituals. Fire and water, symbols of life, destruction, and transformation, played central roles in ceremonial life, binding the physical and spiritual realms together. These were not mere displays. They were acts of profound significance, performed with precision, reverence, and a deep understanding of human psychology and natural forces. Fire illuminated the sacred, transforming ordinary spaces into portals of experience. In temples and open plazas, flames flickered in carefully designed patterns, casting shadows that interacted with carvings and terraces. The movement of light and shadow was not accidental. It followed rituals timed to celestial events or seasonal cycles, enhancing the spiritual potency of ceremonies. The people understood that fire could shape perception, inspire awe, and connect participants with realms beyond the visible. Evidence of controlled burnings suggests complex ceremonial practice. Charred remains, ashes, and fire pits indicate that offerings were made to gods, ancestors, or natural forces. Objects of gold, silver, or stone were placed into flames, releasing symbolic energy while preserving memory. Fire was also a medium of communication, signaling across valleys or serving as a marker for ritual timing. The act of burning, in this context, was both symbolic and practical, combining spirituality with social coordination, leaving traces for generations to interpret. Water, equally sacred, was integrated into rituals and daily life. Streams diverted through terraces, reservoirs, and ceremonial channels were used to purify, sanctify, and sustain. Water was poured over altars, used in offerings, or directed through aqueducts to create flowing patterns that mirrored cosmic rhythms. The careful management of water reflected both technological skill and spiritual reverence, recognizing that survival and worship were intertwined. Without water, the terraces would fail, crops would wither, and the rituals themselves would lose meaning. Some ceremonies appear to have combined fire and water in dramatic displays. Pools of water reflected the glow of flames, creating an interplay of light, motion, and reflection. Smoke and steam mingled, transforming sacred spaces into immersive experiences that communicated with both the senses and the spirit. These rituals were not ephemeral. They were designed to be remembered, encoded into the landscape, and recreated across generations. They were performances, teachings, and acts of devotion, all in one. Burial sites further illustrate the interplay of fire and water. Bodies were often interred near streams, rivers, or terraces, and sometimes associated with charred remains of offerings. Fire and water marked transition. Death was not the end, but a passage to another state of being. By controlling these elements, the living guided the dead, ensuring that cosmic and earthly forces remained in balance. In this way, ritual reinforced social cohesion, spiritual understanding, and environmental awareness simultaneously. Some rituals involved large-scale coordination, suggesting social hierarchy and shared belief systems. Entire communities may have participated, with leaders orchestrating sequences of fire, water, song, and movement. These ceremonies reinforced collective identity, knowledge of seasonal cycles, and connection to the sacred landscape. The Andes were not only home to a people surviving in isolation, they were a stage for orchestrated expression of cosmology, morality, and human creativity. The symbolic duality of fire and water reflects a profound philosophical understanding. Fire represents transformation, illumination, and energy. Water embodies life, adaptability, and continuity. Together, they illustrate the tension and harmony between opposing forces, a concept echoed in agriculture, architecture, and ritual practice. By engaging both, the Andean people enacted a philosophy that bound the physical and spiritual worlds together, demonstrating awareness of balance, cycles, and consequence. Artifacts further support these practices. Engraved stones, pottery, and ceremonial implements showed depictions of flames, flowing water, and the interactions between them. Some vessels appear designed to hold liquids during fire ceremonies, while others contain traces of burning or incense. The material culture preserves a visual record of ritual knowledge, enabling modern observers to reconstruct sequences and understand the profound significance these acts held in daily and sacred life. Rituals of fire and water also served as markers of social and spiritual transitions. Planting, harvest, solstices, and equinoxes were occasions for ceremonial performance, connecting human activity to cosmic and natural rhythms. By participating in these rituals, individuals internalized lessons of resilience, cooperation, and reverence. The ceremonies were lived experiences, reinforcing both community cohesion and individual understanding of the world's intricate balance. Yet, much about these rituals remains mysterious. Details of chants, sequences, and exact symbolic meanings have been lost over time. Archaeological evidence provides hints, but not complete understanding. Some ceremonies may have included aspects now incomprehensible, intentionally obscured to protect sacred knowledge. Fire and water, in this context, were not just tools. They were carriers of secret wisdom, encoded in movement, sound, light, and reflection. Standing among terraces and shrines where these rituals took place, one can imagine the sensory experience: the roar of flames, the shimmer of sunlight on water, the scent of smoke, the resonance of communal song. It is a reminder that the forgotten civilization of the Andes understood human emotion and perception as tools of spiritual and social engagement. Ritual was not abstract. It was immersive, transformative, and enduring, binding people to the land, to each other, and to the cosmos. These ceremonies, hidden in valleys or performed on high terraces, challenge our assumptions about ancient cultures. They were not primitive or isolated. They were deliberate, sophisticated, and multidimensional. The Andean people harnessed natural elements to teach, connect, and preserve, leaving behind traces of practices that communicated across generations. Fire and water, ephemeral yet eternal, became instruments of memory, shaping landscapes, culture, and belief in ways that persist even after the civilization itself faded. Through the lens of ritual, we begin to see the Andes not merely as geography, but as a sacred theater. Every terrace, stream, and platform becomes a stage for human ingenuity and spiritual engagement. The elements themselves become co-creators, participating in a dialogue that is both practical and mystical. Fire and water, harnessed and honored, were conduits through which the forgotten civilization expressed understanding of life, death, and the cosmos. The legacy of these rituals endures. Traces of fire and water ceremonies allow us to glimpse a worldview in which human beings were intimately connected to natural forces, responsible for stewardship, and capable of transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. They reveal a civilization whose understanding of ritual, environment, and community was profound, sophisticated, and deeply moving. A civilization that spoke in a language of elements, leaving echoes for those willing to listen. The Andes are riddled with secrets, many invisible to the untrained eye. Among jagged peaks, deep valleys, and dense fog, hidden pathways snake across mountainsides, connecting settlements, terraces, and ceremonial sites that have remained undiscovered for centuries. These trails were not merely practical. They were lifelines, networks of communication, trade, and spiritual pilgrimage. The civilization that built them left a landscape that is as much a map as it is a mystery, a geography of memory and intention. Some pathways are astonishing in their engineering, carved directly into rock faces, reinforced with retaining walls, and sometimes covered to protect travelers from snow and landslides. They reveal careful planning and foresight. Steps are perfectly proportioned. Switchbacks navigate impossible slopes, and bridges, often simple stone slabs, span chasms with elegance and durability. Each path demonstrates a mastery of terrain, a deep understanding of material, and an eye for both functionality and harmony with the natural environment. These routes were arteries of survival. They connected agricultural terraces with storage facilities, linking food production to population centers. Water channels often ran alongside, ensuring access to life-sustaining resources. The trails facilitated trade, enabling the movement of tools, textiles, and ceremonial objects across mountains that modern hikers can barely traverse. Yet beyond utility, they carried spiritual and social significance, guiding pilgrims to sacred spaces and linking human communities with the cosmos and the environment. Lost cities, perched on cliffs or tucked into hidden valleys, testify to the civilization's ingenuity and ambition. Excavations reveal structures designed for defense, governance, ritual, and daily life, often integrated seamlessly into the landscape. Buildings align with solar and lunar events, terraces optimize agriculture, and plazas provide communal space, all reflecting a civilization that harmonized human needs with environmental and cosmic awareness. These cities, hidden from casual view, were microcosms of society, each a carefully orchestrated fusion of survival, spirituality, and aesthetics. Some lost cities are astonishing in their scale. Multi-tiered terraces rise like steps into the sky, with canals and aqueducts that carry water across immense distances. Walls interlock with extraordinary precision, and some stones are so massive that their movement and placement remain unexplained by conventional archaeology. The civilization's ability to integrate engineering, art, and ritual into urban planning suggests a level of sophistication rarely associated with ancient highland societies. Pathways to these cities often disappear, swallowed by time, landslides, or vegetation. Many settlements were abandoned suddenly or gradually, leaving behind only fragments of roads, staircases, and plazas. These remnants, partially buried or overgrown, challenge archaeologists to reconstruct networks that once thrived. Modern expeditions, aided by satellite imaging and drone technology, reveal interconnected complexes previously thought impossible to access, hinting at a civilization whose reach extended far beyond initial assumptions. The design of these pathways suggests more than utility. It implies intentional secrecy. Some trails are hidden from valleys below, visible only from above, possibly to protect resources, sacred sites, or knowledge. Others connect ceremonial centers that seem isolated, creating routes for initiation, ritual, or controlled access. The civilization understood that geography could safeguard culture, encoding secrecy and guidance into every step and turn. Travelers were guided not just by the physical trail, but by the knowledge embedded in the mountains themselves. Trade and communication along these hidden routes indicate a sophisticated economy and social structure. Agricultural produce, metalwork, textiles, and ritual objects moved efficiently between settlements, suggesting governance, coordination, and societal organization. These pathways also facilitated cultural exchange, allowing beliefs, technologies, and artistic motifs to spread across valleys and peaks. The network reveals a civilization not isolated by geography, but ingeniously connected, harmonizing isolation with accessibility. The lost cities themselves hold enigmatic treasures. Temples and shrines, often partially collapsed, contain carvings, altars, and ceremonial objects aligned with celestial events. Domestic spaces reveal pottery, weaving implements, and tools, suggesting a vibrant daily life that balanced survival, craft, and spiritual practice. Some cities display evidence of specialized workshops, indicating economic complexity and knowledge transmission across generations. The combination of practicality, artistry, and spirituality reflects a holistic approach to life, integrated seamlessly into the rugged terrain. Mystery intensifies with the unexplained. Certain sites contain stones, terraces, or carvings whose purpose is unclear. Some align with distant peaks or constellations. Others form geometric patterns visible only from above. These elements suggest knowledge of astronomy, geometry, or ritual logic that challenges modern understanding. Hidden pathways may have led to sacred knowledge or controlled access to initiates, hinting at cultural practices deliberately obscured from outsiders. The civilization's intent remains partially veiled, leaving modern observers to interpret fragments of meaning preserved in stone and terrain. Explorers walking these pathways today are struck by the emotional impact of the terrain. The effort required to navigate cliffs, stairways, and terraces mirrors the resilience and ingenuity of those who created them. One senses a dialogue across time. The builders left a trail not only of stone, but of intention, knowledge, and connection. Every step is both literal and symbolic, tracing the paths of survival, devotion, and ingenuity. The mountains and trails speak to endurance, foresight, and a deep understanding of the interplay between human endeavor and natural forces. Even abandoned, these pathways preserve lessons. They teach about planning, environmental adaptation, and community cohesion. They reveal how societies could thrive in extreme landscapes, balancing agriculture, defense, ritual, and connectivity. The Andes become a living classroom where terraces, staircases, and lost cities instruct modern observers about resilience, intelligence, and creativity. Each path, each ruin, is a page in the history of a civilization whose memory is encoded in stone, land, and imagination. In contemplating these hidden networks, one cannot help but marvel at human ingenuity. The civilization of the Andes understood that survival, spirituality, and legacy are intertwined. by designing trails and cities that endure the test of time. They created both a functional landscape and a message across millennia. The hidden pathways and lost cities are not mere ruins. They are enduring symbols of a culture that mastered mountains, elements, and knowledge, leaving a legacy that continues to challenge and inspire. Bodies were positioned carefully, sometimes accompanied by tools or ornaments intended for use in the afterlife, and always placed in harmony with the surrounding terrain. These resting places suggest a belief in continuity between the living and the dead, humans and spirits, and earth and sky. In this way, the mountains functioned as both protector and storyteller, preserving the lives and knowledge of the civilization long after its disappearance. Archaeological evidence suggests that the people of the Andes developed a unique relationship with natural forces. Seismic activity, avalanches, and glacial movements shaped not only their physical settlements, but their cultural practices. By observing the mountains, they learned patterns of risk and reward, creating terraces that could survive landslides and channels that adapted to changing water flows. They recognized that survival required respect, intelligence, and adaptability, a philosophy encoded in their architecture, art, and rituals. The concept of memory extended beyond survival to spiritual and societal organization. The mountains were a calendar, a compass, and a stage for ceremonial life. Temples, plazas, and shrines were situated with awareness of solar and lunar cycles, as well as astronomical alignments. Certain peaks marked equinoxes or solstices, allowing precise predictions of planting and harvesting times. The people were, in effect, translating the language of the mountains into tools, rituals, and structures that ensured both prosperity and cultural continuity. Even in their engineering, there is evidence of foresight and planning that suggests collective memory was crucial. Knowledge of terrace construction, irrigation maintenance, and astronomical observation was passed down, encoded in physical landscapes as well as oral tradition. This knowledge, built into the mountains themselves, acted as a form of cultural insurance. Even when populations shifted, the terraces, channels, and shrines continued to teach and sustain those who followed, ensuring that the wisdom of the ancients endured. The emotional resonance of this interaction between humans and mountains is palpable. Standing on a terrace carved into a sheer cliff, gazing at peaks shrouded in mist, one feels the connection that these ancient people must have felt, a mixture of humility, reverence, and awe. Their lives were intertwined with the terrain in ways we can scarcely replicate today. They listened, observed, and acted with patience, understanding that every slope, every boulder, and every stream carried lessons. Yet the mountains also hide mysteries. Buried terraces, collapsed structures, and forgotten shrines suggest knowledge lost over time, secrets encoded in stone and soil that remain only partially understood. Some alignments, patterns, and constructions defy modern explanation, hinting at insights into astronomy, agriculture, or spirituality that have yet to be deciphered. The Andes themselves, as enduring witnesses, guard these secrets with patience, offering only fragments to those willing to search and contemplate. In this way, the mountains are both memory and messenger. They preserve the ingenuity, beliefs, and resilience of a civilization older than most historians have recognized. By walking their paths, observing their terraces, and uncovering their hidden shrines, we are not merely exploring geography. We are entering a dialogue with time itself, tracing the steps, thoughts, and aspirations of a people who understood that the earth itself could record their existence. As we continue to explore the forgotten civilization of the Andes, it becomes clear that their genius lies not only in tools, art, or architecture, but in their relationship with the mountains. These peaks were teachers, guides, and guardians. Every carved terrace, every hidden shrine, every carefully positioned structure is a testament to a culture that recognized the power of place and memory, leaving behind a landscape that continues to speak, challenge, and inspire centuries later. Time in the Andes was not measured solely by hours, days, or months. It was observed, interpreted, and woven into the rhythm of life. This forgotten civilization understood the cosmos as a vast clock, each celestial movement marking cycles that dictated agriculture, ritual, and societal organization. The Andean calendar was not merely a tool of convenience. It was a living system, encoded in stone, aligned with the sun, moon, and stars, guiding human activity with astonishing precision. Observatories and ceremonial platforms reveal this sophistication. Elevated terraces, cliffside structures, and sacred plazas are aligned to capture the sun's light during solstices and equinoxes, marking crucial points in the agricultural year. Shadow lines, reflected sunlight, and patterns of illumination created natural indicators, signaling when a plant crops, harvest produce, or conduct rituals. In essence, the landscape itself became a time-keeping instrument, embedding temporal knowledge into the very geography of civilization. The sun played the most prominent role. Its rising and setting, as well as its zenith, provided cues that structured daily life and ceremonial events. Solar temples were constructed with precision to capture light at specific times of year, turning rays into sacred markers. This was not accidental. It was a conscious effort to harmonize human activity with natural cycles. Through these alignments, communities were able to plan agriculture, coordinate labor, and synchronize ritual practice with cosmic rhythms. The moon complemented solar observation, influencing agricultural timing, religious ceremonies, and social rituals. Lunar phases dictated planting cycles, water management, and even initiation ceremonies, reflecting the Andean belief in the interdependence of natural cycles. Certain terraces, carvings, and observatories were designed to track lunar positions, capturing subtle shifts that mark the passage of months. These dual systems of sun and moon observation created a sophisticated temporal framework, blending empirical knowledge with spiritual understanding. Stars and constellations acted as celestial signposts, guiding both timekeeping and navigation. Observers tracked the movement of prominent stars and clusters, predicting seasonal changes and signaling important moments for agriculture and ritual. Some carvings, petroglyphs, and ceremonial layouts correspond with stellar alignments, encoding astronomical knowledge into stone and earth. By integrating stars into daily and spiritual life, the Andean people created a multidimensional calendar, one that connected sky, land, and human activity. Artifacts further illuminate the complexity of Andean timekeeping. Carved stones, ceremonial objects, and textiles contain numerical patterns, symbolic representations, and sequences that appear to function as calendars or chronometers. These encoded messages indicate a numerical and symbolic literacy, allowing knowledge to be transmitted across generations. Some objects may have served as portable timekeepers, enabling communities to interpret celestial and seasonal signals even when away from permanent observatories. Water and landscape were also part of the temporal system. Channels, terraces, and reservoirs were designed to store and distribute water according to seasonal patterns. Observing water levels, snowmelt, and rainfall allowed communities to anticipate agricultural cycles, plan resource allocation, and mitigate risks. The interaction of earth, water, and celestial observation created a holistic approach to time, a system in which the natural world itself was a clock, and human ingenuity acted as the interpreter. The calendar was not only functional, but deeply symbolic. Rituals, festivals, and ceremonies were timed according to cosmic events, integrating spiritual, social, and environmental rhythms. Initiations, offerings, and communal celebrations coincided with celestial markers, ensuring that human activity resonated with the perceived order of the universe. Timekeeping was therefore a bridge between survival and spirituality, science and devotion, practical knowledge and moral order. Even the physical construction of timekeeping instruments reflects an astonishing integration of disciplines. Terraces, platforms, walls, and stones were positioned with astronomical, engineering, and artistic precision. Builders had to understand angles, light, shadow, and material behavior while also accounting for long-term environmental changes. The result is a network of observatories and markers that functioned as a living calendar, guiding life across generations. Some aspects of the Andean calendar remain mysterious. Exact interpretations of certain alignments, patterns, and artifacts elude modern scholars. Were some structures designed to track multiple cycles simultaneously? Did symbolic carvings encode predictive models of weather, astronomy, or social cycles? The incomplete nature of surviving evidence invites speculation and wonder, reminding us that this civilization achieved a level of temporal sophistication that challenges contemporary assumptions. The emotional impact of these timekeeping practices is profound. Imagine standing on a terrace at sunrise on the solstice, witnessing the first light illuminate an altar or cast shadows across carefully positioned stones. One can sense the awe, devotion, and precision of those who designed these instruments, experiencing their understanding of time as both practical and sacred. The Andean calendar was not abstract. It was lived, felt, and integrated into every moment of existence. Moreover, the calendar reveals a philosophy of patience and observation. Time was measured not in fleeting units, but in cycles, patterns, and recurrence. Humans were observers, interpreters, and participants in cosmic rhythms. Every decision, from planting to ritual, reflected careful attention to cycles beyond individual lifespans. Knowledge of time was therefore both practical and ethical, a guide to living in harmony with natural and spiritual orders. This mastery of temporal knowledge underscores the sophistication of the civilization. Despite the absence of written scripts, telescopes, or advanced instruments, the Andean people tracked celestial movements, predicted agricultural cycles, and synchronized society with cosmic rhythms. Their calendar was a living testament to observation, ingenuity, and integration of multiple dimensions of understanding, blending survival, devotion, and cosmic insight into a coherent and enduring system. Ultimately, the Andean calendar and its timekeepers reveal a civilization deeply attuned to the universe. Observatories, terraces, artifacts, and celestial alignments form a temporal network that guided life, ritual, and survival. By understanding the rhythms of sun, moon, and stars, they created a society in which human activity resonated with cosmic order. Their legacy endures, offering insight into a worldview in which time is not merely counted, but observed, respected, and harmonized with the forces that shape existence. In the forgotten civilization of the Andes, weaving was far more than a craft. It was a language, a repository of knowledge, and a canvas for spiritual expression. Threads of cotton, alpaca, and other fibers were transformed into textiles that encoded culture, mythology, and cosmic understanding. Every pattern, color, and stitch carried meaning, forming a symbolic system as intricate and enduring as stone architecture or celestial observation. To hold an Andean textile is to touch a story, a philosophy, and a worldview woven across generations. Weaving functioned as a medium of communication. Patterns were not purely decorative. They conveyed information about social hierarchy, agricultural cycles, celestial events, and spiritual beliefs. Certain motifs appear repeatedly across regions, suggesting shared cultural knowledge or communication networks. Spirals, diamonds, zigzags, and geometric forms may represent mountains, rivers, stars, or constellations, linking Earth, sky, and human activity. In this sense, textiles served as portable maps, calendars, and ritual manuals, preserving information in a format that transcended generations. Color played a crucial role in conveying meaning. Natural dyes derived from plants, minerals, and insects produced vivid reds, yellows, blues, and blacks, each carefully chosen for symbolic or ritual significance. Red might symbolize life, blood, or sacrifice. Blue could represent water, sky, or spiritual connection. Black and white conveyed duality, balance, and cosmic harmony. The deliberate selection and combination of colors created a visual language, understood within communities that communicated complex concepts with elegance and clarity. Weaving was also a spiritual act. The act of creating textiles was imbued with ritual significance, connecting the weaver to ancestors, deities, and cosmic cycles. Certain pieces were made exclusively for ceremonial use, worn during initiation rites, offerings, or festivals. Others were reserved for elite members of society, signaling status, authority, or sacred responsibility. The labor of weaving became a form of devotion, a medium through which human effort was transformed into enduring art and spiritual dialogue. The complexity of weaving reflects remarkable technical knowledge. Threads were spun with precision, dyed with care, and interlaced in patterns requiring foresight, calculation, and memory. Some textiles incorporate multiple layers of technique, combining weaving, embroidery, and knotting to produce multidimensional effects. These methods suggest a sophisticated understanding of geometry, material behavior, and visual communication, echoing the ingenuity seen in stone architecture and astronomical observation. Weaving also functioned as a record-keeping system. In the absence of written language, textiles encoded history, genealogy, and social agreements. Patterns could denote familial lineage, regional identity, or membership within particular ceremonial groups. By interpreting the symbolic motifs, modern researchers can reconstruct aspects of social organization, trade networks, and cultural practice. These textiles were living archives, preserving knowledge in a tangible, portable, and visually striking form. Some weavings reveal an astonishing conceptual sophistication. Depictions of mythical beings, celestial bodies, and abstract forms suggest narratives that blend cosmology, morality, and human experience. Stories of creation, natural cycles, and ethical conduct were woven into cloth, allowing wearers and viewers to engage with profound cultural lessons. The textiles are more than art. They are education, ritual, and philosophy intertwined, teaching through form, color, and symbolism. The distribution of textiles indicates cultural exchange and connectivity. Pieces found far from their place of origin reveal trade routes, pilgrimages, and interregional relationships. Knowledge of weaving techniques, dye sources, and symbolic motifs likely traveled along these networks, spreading ideas, reinforcing shared beliefs, and consolidating social cohesion. The portability of textiles made them an ideal medium for preserving and transmitting knowledge across the rugged Andean landscape. The emotional power of Andean textiles cannot be overstated. Holding a centuries-old piece, one can sense the intention, skill, and devotion invested in every thread. These objects carry not only practical and symbolic meaning, but also the presence of human effort, patience, and reverence. They are intimate connections to lives lived long ago, bridges across time that invite reflection, admiration, and awe. Some motifs remain mysterious, their precise meanings lost to time. Spirals, stepped patterns, and interwoven forms challenge interpretation, suggesting layered symbolism or secret knowledge. These enigmatic designs hint at philosophical concepts, astronomical observations, or ritual instructions that required contextual understanding to decode. The textiles, like stone walls and celestial alignments, communicate across centuries, offering fragments of insight while preserving the enigma that defines this civilization. In essence, Andean weaving embodies the civilization's core philosophy: integration of function, art, spirituality, and knowledge. Practical needs, aesthetic sensibility, and cosmic understanding converge in every piece. Just as stone walls align with stars and terraces channel water, textiles encode information, ritual significance, and cultural identity, forming a holistic expression of human creativity and intelligence. Through weaving, the Andes speak to us not only about survival or aesthetics, but about perception, memory, and connection. Each textile, from ceremonial garments to everyday cloth, preserves the essence of a worldview in which humans, nature, and cosmos exist in dialogue. They remind us that knowledge can be encoded in many forms: stone, sky, thread, and that even in the absence of written language, human ingenuity and devotion leave a profound, enduring mark. In the Andes, mountains are not merely geological formations. They are living entities, sacred guardians, and cosmic markers. Every peak, ridge, and valley holds meaning, forming a geography infused with spiritual and cultural significance. The forgotten civilization of the Andes understood the mountains as bridges between the earthly and celestial realms, crafting cities, terraces, and ceremonial sites in alignment with these sacred forms. To walk among these peaks is to enter a landscape charged with intention, devotion, and cosmic understanding. Certain mountains were revered as deities, known as apis, embodying both protection and authority. These sacred peaks were integral to ritual practice, serving as points of orientation, pilgrimage, and spiritual connection. Offerings, including food, textiles, and precious objects, were placed on high terraces, carved altars, or even at summits to honor these mountain spirits. By aligning human activity with the mountains, the civilization created a network of spiritual geography, ensuring that daily life, agriculture, and ritual were intertwined with cosmic forces. The placement of cities and terraces reflects profound understanding of topography, ecology, and symbolism. Settlements were constructed to harmonize with the contours of mountains, utilizing slopes for agriculture, natural fortifications for defense, and elevation for observation of celestial events. In these spaces, humans did not dominate the landscape. They engaged in dialogue with it, integrating habitation, cultivation, and spirituality into the natural order. Every terrace and plaza was part of a broader cosmic map, linking people to peaks, rivers, and stars. Ritual pathways often led from valleys to sacred summits, forming pilgrimage routes that combined physical challenge with spiritual education. Walking these trails was an act of devotion, teaching endurance, humility, and connection to forces greater than oneself. Stones, carvings, and shrines placed along these paths reinforced lessons of cosmic order, human responsibility, and cultural memory. Pilgrims engaged with the landscape itself, learning to read patterns of light, shadow, and topography as a form of sacred instruction. Alignment with celestial events further demonstrates the integration of geography and cosmology. Peaks, ridges, and terraces were positioned to capture sunlight at solstices, cast shadows at equinoxes, or frame constellations at key times of year. Certain plazas and ceremonial structures mark solar, lunar, or stellar phenomena, encoding astronomical knowledge into the very layout of settlements. Mountains became instruments of observation, guiding agricultural cycles, ritual timing, and social organization. Water, flowing from sacred peaks through rivers, streams, and terraces, was central to this cosmic geography. Snowmelt and rainfall were channeled carefully, reflecting an understanding of hydrology and environmental stewardship. Water was not only vital for survival, it was symbolic, connecting mountains to valleys, humans to gods, and past to present. The management of water demonstrated respect for natural cycles and integrated practical needs with spiritual meaning, reinforcing the Andes as both physical and metaphysical terrain. Burials and offerings often took place near mountain slopes, emphasizing their sacred status. Tombs, ceremonial pits, and altars were strategically located to align with peaks, creating a spatial dialogue between human life and cosmic order. These practices suggest a worldview in which death, ancestry, and the cosmos are interlinked, with mountains acting as intermediaries between the earthly and divine. By honoring peaks, the civilization maintained social cohesion, spiritual continuity, and environmental awareness. Some sacred mountains also served as markers of territorial and cultural identity. Peaks defined boundaries, guided trade routes, and acted as reference points for navigation. Their significance was both symbolic and functional, blending governance, spirituality, and landscape management. Communities were connected not only by physical pathways, but by shared reverence for these cosmic landmarks, forming networks of cultural memory encoded in geography. The emotional resonance of sacred mountains is profound. Standing beneath a towering peak, one can sense the awe, humility, and reverence felt by ancient observers. The landscape communicates power, mystery, and endurance. Carved terraces, shrines, and observation points transform mountains into living classrooms, teaching respect for natural forces, patience, and the interdependence of humans and environment. Mountains were not passive. They were active participants in the cultural and spiritual life of the Andes. Mystery deepens when considering lost or hidden sacred sites. Some peaks contain terraces, carvings, or shrines that remain inaccessible, buried, or obscured by natural forces. These concealed spaces suggest initiation practices, secret knowledge, or ceremonial sites restricted to the few. The intentional placement of sacred structures in remote or difficult-to-access locations reflects an understanding of secrecy, spiritual hierarchy, and the power of landscape as both teacher and guardian. The integration of sacred mountains into daily life reveals a holistic philosophy. Agriculture, ritual, observation, and social organization all responded to topography, elevation, and celestial alignment. Life was not compartmentalized. Survival, devotion, and knowledge were inseparable. Mountains were both partners and guides, shaping the rhythm of society, informing moral and spiritual lessons, and ensuring continuity of knowledge across generations. Even today, the mountains continue to speak. Terraces, Platforms, shrines, and pathways preserve encoded wisdom, while natural formations act as reference points for understanding the culture's values, knowledge, and worldview. Researchers and explorers interpreting these landscapes encounter a civilization that merged cosmology, ecology, and human ingenuity, creating a geography that is simultaneously functional, spiritual, and eternal. Ultimately, sacred mountains and cosmic geography reveal a civilization deeply attuned to the universe. The Andes were not merely a home. They were a living map, a spiritual guide, and a framework for civilization. Peaks were teachers, pathways were lessons, and terraces were pages in a cosmic book. By understanding these relationships, modern observers glimpse a worldview in which humans, earth, and sky exist in dialogue, interconnected and sustained by respect, reverence, and careful observation. Through sacred mountains, the forgotten civilization of the Andes continues to inspire awe. They remind us that geography is never neutral, that every contour, peak, and valley can carry meaning, and that a society's understanding of the cosmos can be etched into the earth itself. The mountains endure, silent yet eloquent, preserving knowledge, spiritual philosophy, and cultural memory across centuries, inviting us to see not only with our eyes, but with understanding, respect, and imagination. Gold in the Andes was never merely a material of wealth. It was a conduit of spiritual power, a medium of ritual, and a symbol of connection between humans and the divine. Unlike modern perceptions of gold as currency or decoration, the Andean civilization understood it as a sacred element, capable of bridging the earthly and celestial realms. Its lustrous surface captured sunlight, reflecting not just illumination but intention, devotion, and cosmic resonance. The extraction and crafting of gold were highly controlled, involving skilled artisans and ritual specialists. Mines were not only sources of raw material, but sacred spaces, often ritually purified before extraction. Miners and metallurgists operated within strict ceremonial protocols, acknowledging the power of the earth and the risk inherent in removing its treasures. Gold was treated as a living material, imbued with symbolic energy that extended far beyond its physical form. Artifacts crafted from gold reflect extraordinary sophistication. Temples, masks, jewelry, and ceremonial objects display intricate designs, precise casting, and symbolic motifs. Animals, celestial patterns, and abstract forms appear frequently, suggesting narratives, cosmological understanding, and spiritual significance. Gold was not simply decorative. It encoded cultural memory, values, and religious teachings, serving as a portable and enduring representation of human knowledge and belief. Some objects were intentionally buried, hidden, or placed in inaccessible locations. These caches, often discovered centuries later, reveal a culture that prized secrecy and spiritual protection. Gold was an instrument of both power and preservation, a means of safeguarding knowledge, honoring deities, or ensuring continuity of ritual practice. The intentional concealment of treasures suggests a sophisticated understanding of trust, responsibility, and the fragility of civilization. Gold was intimately linked to fire and light, amplifying its symbolic potency. Sunlight reflected off golden objects during ceremonies, turning altars, plazas, and temples into luminous stages of cosmic interaction. Shadows danced across carved surfaces, animating the motifs and creating a visual dialogue with participants. Fire and gold together became instruments of transformation, making ritual a multi-sensory experience that combined illumination, symbolism, and spiritual resonance. The distribution of gold indicates complex social and religious hierarchies. Certain individuals, likely priests, leaders, or elites, had exclusive access to specific treasures. Ceremonial use reinforced social cohesion, spiritual authority, and political power, while also educating participants about cosmology, morality, and community values. Gold became both a marker of status and a medium of communal identity, linking human endeavor with divine sanction. Gold's allure extended beyond the Andes. Trade networks carried precious metals to distant regions, exchanging both material and symbolic wealth. These movements reveal a civilization that understood the power of gold not only as spiritual and ritual medium, but as a tool for diplomacy, influence, and cultural exchange. Objects moved along these networks, spreading motifs, techniques, and religious concepts across valleys, rivers, and mountains. The emotional impact of gold in ceremonial contexts is profound. Imagine standing in a sunlit plaza, golden masks and ornaments shimmering as ritual smoke curls through the air. The interplay of light, shadow, and reflection would have mesmerized participants, creating an experience that transcended ordinary perception. Gold communicated power, devotion, and connection, making ceremonies both awe-inspiring and unforgettable. Some artifacts remain enigmatically functional or symbolic. Certain golden objects appear to reference astronomical phenomena, align with celestial markers, or encode mythological stories. Others incorporate duality, repetition, or geometric abstraction, suggesting layers of meaning accessible only to those initiated into sacred knowledge. These objects were not simply ornaments. They were instruments of education, ritual, and memory, designed to endure physically and spiritually. The Andean approach to gold contrasts sharply with modern notions of wealth. It was never hoarded for personal gain, commercial speculation, or superficial display. Instead, it was carefully integrated into social, spiritual, and environmental systems. Gold's sacredness demanded respect, observation, and ritual engagement, ensuring that it reinforced cultural cohesion rather than mere accumulation. By understanding this distinction, we glimpse the depth of Andean philosophy, a worldview in which material, spiritual, and communal values were inseparable. The mystery of gold deepens with its disappearance. Many treasures were lost, hidden, or destroyed during periods of upheaval, invasion, or internal change. Yet traces remain, preserved in tombs, caches, and ritual sites, hinting at practices and beliefs that are only partially understood. Each discovery prompts questions. Why was this object placed here? Who had the right to touch it? What knowledge did it carry? And what has been lost forever? Gold becomes both a clue and a symbol of enigma, representing a civilization that communicated through material, light, and ritual. Gold's enduring power lies not only in its visual brilliance, but in its capacity to connect generations. Objects created centuries ago continue to inspire awe, revealing a culture that understood durability, symbolism, and transcendence. Its shimmer is a reminder that the Andean civilization viewed the material world as inseparable from the spiritual. With each artifact, each ritual, and each gesture of offering designed to encode intention, knowledge, and connection across time. Ultimately, the mystery of Andean gold teaches us about values, belief, and human ingenuity. It illustrates a society that fused artistry, technology, spirituality, and social order into a coherent system. Gold was a tool, a symbol, and a medium, a manifestation of devotion, knowledge, and human interaction with the cosmos. By studying these artifacts, we glimpse the priorities, philosophy, and sacred worldview of a civilization whose sophistication challenges modern assumptions and whose legacy continues to shimmer across centuries. The skies over the Andes were more than a backdrop for daily life. They were a canvas, a calendar, and a guide. The forgotten civilization of the Andes regarded the heavens with reverence and precision, interpreting the movement of stars, planets, and constellations as a map of time, destiny, and cosmic order. Observing the night sky was not merely curiosity. It was survival, spirituality, and science entwined, a system that allowed humans to navigate mountains, seasons, and ritual cycles with astonishing accuracy. Astronomical observation was integrated into architecture, settlement planning, and ceremonial practice. Certain terraces, temples, and plazas were oriented to capture solar and stellar events, marking solstices, equinoxes, and critical points in agricultural cycles. Shadows cast by walls, stones, or pillars would illuminate altars, carvings, or ceremonial spaces in precise alignment with the sun or stars. The Andes themselves became observatories, their peaks and valleys framing celestial phenomena with meticulous intentionality. The civilization's understanding of constellations was deeply symbolic. Celestial patterns were often mapped onto terrestrial landscapes, creating a dual geography of earth and sky. Stars were identified with animals, ancestors, and gods, forming narratives that linked cosmic events with human experience. These constellations guided agricultural timing, ritual initiation, and even social hierarchy, intertwining observation with meaning, myth, and moral order. The sun held supreme importance. Solar temples, aligned with rising and setting points on the horizon, functioned as precise indicators of the agricultural calendar. Observers could predict planting seasons, harvests, and ceremonial dates with remarkable accuracy. Sunlight was both functional and sacred, illuminating altars, terraces, and objects at pivotal moments. The interplay of light and shadow transformed ordinary spaces into stages of cosmic interaction, a dynamic dialogue between humans and the celestial realm. The moon complemented solar observation, influencing both ritual and agriculture. Lunar phases dictated planting cycles, water management, and ceremonial scheduling. Certain ceremonial platforms were designed to track moon positions, casting shadows or reflecting light to indicate critical moments. By integrating sun and moon observation, the civilization created a multidimensional temporal framework, balancing practicality with spiritual resonance. Stars were not merely markers, they were teachers. Observers tracked movements of bright stars, constellations, and even planetary patterns, predicting seasonal change and timing rituals. Some ceremonial sites align with stellar risings, framing distant peaks or marking hidden valleys. These alignments suggest that knowledge of the heavens was encoded into architecture, geography, and cultural practice, creating a celestial system that was accessible, interpretable, and enduring. Certain astronomical practices remain mysterious. Some stone arrangements, carvings, and ceremonial markers appear to track complex cycles, including lunar-solar synchronization, planetary motion, or rare celestial events. The precision suggests not casual observation, but careful, long-term study. This knowledge was likely transmitted orally, visually, and through ritual practice, preserving information across generations without written records. The heavens were a library, and the landscape was its book. The emotional power of Andean astronomy is profound. Imagine standing on a cliff as the sun rises over a sacred peak, casting light on a ceremonial stone perfectly aligned to mark the solstice. Or observing the first appearance of a key constellation, signaling planting or harvest. Ancient observers experienced awe, reverence, and clarity, connecting their daily lives to the rhythm of the universe. The night sky was a living teacher, guiding action, shaping ritual, and framing human existence within cosmic order. Artifacts reflect this astronomical sophistication. Carvings, textiles, and ritual objects encode cycles, celestial patterns, and symbolic representations. Spirals, stepped motifs, and geometric arrangements echo star maps, solstice lines, and lunar sequences. Even seemingly decorative patterns may carry encoded astronomical knowledge, linking artistry with empirical observation. Through these objects, celestial understanding became portable, transferable, and preserved for those initiated into sacred practice. Integration of astronomy with human activity demonstrates remarkable foresight. Agricultural terraces, water channels, and ceremonial plazas were planned to function with cosmic timing, ensuring that survival and spirituality coexisted harmoniously. This system shows a society in which observation, prediction, and ritual were inseparable, a civilization attuned to the movements of stars and planets, while grounding themselves in the demands of daily life. The heavens also influenced myth, morality, and social structure. Celestial events signaled beginnings, endings, and moments of transition, guiding festivals, initiations, and community decisions. Stars and planets embodied divine forces, and humans were tasked with understanding, honoring, and responding to them. The night sky was both an instruction manual and a moral compass, teaching patience, observation, and alignment with natural and spiritual law. Modern researchers continue to uncover astronomical marvels in the Andes. Satellite imaging, 3D mapping, and ground exploration reveal alignments, sight lines, and markers previously hidden by topography or vegetation. These findings confirm that astronomical observation was deliberate, sophisticated, and central to the civilization's survival, governance, and spirituality. Each discovery reinforces the idea that the Andean people merged empirical observation with symbolic interpretation in ways that remain awe-inspiring. Ultimately, astronomy in the Andes was a bridge between earth and sky, human and divine. Observatories, temples, terraces, and artifacts form a system that harmonized daily life with cosmic order. By reading the heavens, the civilization navigated the mountains, timed its rituals, and encoded knowledge across generations. Stars, sun, and moon became instruments of both survival and spiritual reflection, illustrating a worldview in which humans are participants in, not masters of, the universe. Through the study of Andean astronomy, we glimpse a civilization whose knowledge of the heavens rivals modern understanding. Their alignment of earth and sky, integration of ritual, and observation of celestial patterns reveal a culture deeply attuned to cycles, rhythms, and cosmic meaning. The night sky continues to inspire awe, offering lessons about observation, patience, and humanity's enduring quest to understand its place in the universe. In the Andes, fire and water were more than natural elements. They were sacred forces, carriers of spiritual power, and instruments of communication with the divine. The forgotten civilization of the Andes understood that life, death, and cosmic balance were inseparable from these elemental forces. Ceremonies involving fire and water were intricate, symbolic, and highly structured, transforming ordinary substances into channels for devotion, purification, and connection with forces beyond human comprehension. Fire played a central role in ritual practice. Flames illuminated ceremonial spaces, animated altars, and symbolized life, energy, and transformation. Ritual fires were carefully prepared, often using specific wood, herbs, or incense, each selected for symbolic resonance or spiritual efficacy. The act of igniting, tending, and directing fire required skill and devotion, reflecting both practical knowledge and sacred understanding. Flames were a language in themselves, conveying intention, reverence, and cosmic alignment. Water was equally powerful. Rivers, streams, lakes, and snowmelt were not merely resources. They were sacred entities, flowing channels of life and communication with the divine. Water rituals involved purification, offerings, and libations, often performed at sources of pristine flow or near terraces and ceremonial platforms. By engaging with water, participants acknowledge cycles of growth, nourishment, and renewal, linking human action to the rhythms of the natural world. Rituals often combined fire and water to create balance. Flames reflected in sacred pools, streams were heated or directed into ceremonial spaces, and smoke mingled with mist or rainfall. This interplay symbolized the duality of existence: destruction and creation, transformation and continuity, heaven and earth. Participants experienced these elements not just visually or physically, but spiritually, feeling themselves part of a system far larger than any individual or community. Offerings formed a key component of these rituals. Food, textiles, gold, and other valuable objects were placed in a fire or water as symbolic gestures, expressing devotion, gratitude, and intercession with spiritual forces. The act of giving was deliberate, infused with intention and awareness of consequences. These offerings often mirrored cycles of nature, societal values, and cosmic order, ensuring that human action resonated with the principles that governed both the material and spiritual worlds. Certain rituals were performed at precise times, dictated by the sun, moon, stars, and seasonal cycles. Fires were ignited at solstices or equinoxes, and water ceremonies coincided with snowmelt or rainfall, creating synchronization between human action and cosmic rhythms. These practices reinforced awareness of time, natural cycles, and the necessity of living in harmony with the environment. Ceremonial timing was both practical and symbolic, ensuring survival while maintaining spiritual resonance. The emotional impact of fire and water rituals was profound. Flames and flowing water transformed landscapes into stages of awe, reflection, and reverence. Smoke, light, and sound created immersive experiences that reinforced communal identity, spiritual understanding, and ethical lessons. Participants were drawn into a dialogue with elements, ancestors, and deities, experiencing firsthand the power of alignment between human effort and natural forces. Sacred architecture often facilitated these rituals. Terraces, altars, plazas, and stone channels were designed to direct fire and water, enhancing ceremonial impact and symbolizing cosmic principles. Water flowed along carefully constructed channels to specific pools or ritual spaces, while fire illuminated carvings or cast symbolic shadows. The integration of architecture, natural elements, and ceremonial practice exemplifies the civilization's ability to merge functionality with spirituality, turning physical spaces into instruments of knowledge and devotion. Some rituals involved secrecy and initiation. Certain fires and water sites were reserved for select individuals, indicating hierarchical or esoteric practices. Initiates may have learned the symbolic meanings of flame and flow, how to interpret reflections, shadows, or currents, and how to act in alignment with cosmic order. The combination of visibility and secrecy ensured that sacred knowledge was protected while still guiding communal practice, preserving both mystery and structure. These elemental rituals were closely tied to social and political life. Leaders, priests, and elders oversaw ceremonies, reinforcing authority, legitimacy, and cultural cohesion. Fire and water symbolized not only spiritual power, but also the responsibility to maintain balance within society and between humans and the environment. Ritual practice was a reminder that survival, morality, and devotion are intertwined, and that human action must resonate with forces beyond immediate perception. The interplay of fire and water also carried moral and philosophical meaning. Fire could destroy, purify, or transform. Water could nourish, cleanse, or guide. Participants understood that life itself depended on balance, and ritual engagement reflected the necessity of harmony in all spheres, personal, communal, and cosmic. Observing or participating in these rituals fostered mindfulness, reverence, and respect for the forces that shape existence. Artifacts and archaeological evidence support the centrality of these rituals. Ceremonial altars, hearths, channels, and offerings reveal a system of spiritual practice meticulously integrated with natural cycles. The design, placement, and materials indicate careful planning, technical knowledge, and deep symbolic understanding. Through fire and water, the civilization encoded lessons about life, death, morality, and cosmic harmony in ways that endure across centuries. Ultimately, the rituals of fire and water reveal a civilization attuned to the forces of nature, human responsibility, and the unseen realms. Flames, streams, and offerings were instruments of communication, education, and transformation, linking individuals to ancestors, gods, and cosmic rhythms. By engaging with these elements, participants learn to live in alignment with universal laws, to honor both material and spiritual necessities, and to preserve cultural memory through symbolic action. Through the study of these elemental rituals, modern observers glimpse a civilization that recognized the profound interconnection between humans and the cosmos. Fire and water were not simply tools or resources. They were sacred teachers, conduits of knowledge, and symbols of enduring values. They remind us that the material world carries meaning beyond the obvious, and that reverence, observation, and careful action can transform ordinary elements into channels of wisdom, devotion, and cosmic understanding. The Andes are riddled with secrets, their peaks and valleys concealing cities and pathways that time has nearly forgotten. This forgotten civilization carved homes, plazas, and ceremonial centers into remote cliffs, plateaus, and riverbanks, creating urban landscapes that blend seamlessly with the rugged terrain. These hidden cities reveal not only extraordinary engineering skill, but also a society deeply attuned to geography, secrecy, and the protection of knowledge. To discover one of these sites is to step into a realm suspended between the past and the present, where every stone tells a story of ingenuity, devotion, and survival. The placement of hidden cities was deliberate. Settlements were often located in inaccessible regions, atop steep cliffs or nestled within valleys shielded by natural barriers. This served multiple purposes: defense against potential invaders, preservation of sacred or esoteric knowledge, and environmental optimization for agriculture, water management, and resource collection. Every city was a statement of strategic foresight, reflecting an understanding of terrain, climate, and human behavior that remains impressive even by modern standards. Pathways connecting these cities were equally remarkable. Some trails wound along cliff faces, suspended above deep canyons, while others traversed dense forests or high-altitude plateaus. These paths required careful planning, engineering, and maintenance, suggesting an organized and interconnected society. They were not merely routes of travel. They were lifelines, linking communities, facilitating trade, enabling ritual pilgrimages, and preserving cultural cohesion across challenging landscapes. Many hidden cities reveal a profound integration of natural and built environments. Terraces cling to steep slopes, following the contours of the land while maximizing agricultural potential. Water channels, aqueducts, and reservoirs direct meltwater and rainfall to ensure sustenance. Buildings, plazas, and ceremonial spaces are oriented to celestial events, allowing sunlight, shadow, and stellar alignments to animate sacred moments. These cities were more than settlements. They were living systems, blending survival, ritual, and cosmic observation in a seamless whole. Secrecy and protection of knowledge were central to these hidden spaces. Certain buildings, shrines, and storage areas were intentionally concealed, suggesting the presence of restricted or esoteric practices. Initiates may have been guided through labyrinthine paths, learning to interpret spatial relationships, natural cues, and architectural symbolism. Knowledge was encoded into the landscape itself, ensuring that critical information was preserved while inaccessible to outsiders or those unprepared to understand its significance. The emotional resonance of these hidden cities is profound. Imagine discovering a sunlit terrace perched above a canyon, its walls carved with symbolic patterns, water channels still channeling flow, and shadows aligning with the first light of the solstice. Each step, each stone, and each line of sight evokes awe, reverence, and connection. Visitors experience the ingenuity, devotion, and patience of the civilization, as if stepping into a space where human effort harmonizes with cosmic rhythm and natural beauty. Archaeological evidence suggests these cities were hubs of administration, ceremony, and daily life. Residential areas, marketplaces, and ritual centers coexist within tight, carefully designed layouts. Terraces and walls demonstrate advanced knowledge of materials, engineering, and environmental adaptation. These spaces were not static. They evolved over time, reflecting social changes, religious priorities, and technological development. The hidden cities were both functional and symbolic, serving as anchors of culture, memory, and continuity. Trade and connectivity extended through hidden pathways, roads and stairways, carefully engineered and maintained, facilitated movement of goods, people, and information. Networks of communication linked distant valleys, allowing the civilization to coordinate agriculture, rituals, and social organization. These routes reveal a society that valued both secrecy and connectivity, balancing isolation for protection with openness for collaboration and cohesion. Some cities remain partially buried or lost, obscured by vegetation, landslides, or centuries of erosion. Archaeologists and explorers often uncover terraces, walls, or ceremonial platforms long after they were abandoned, piecing together fragments of urban life from subtle clues in the landscape. Each discovery brings new insight, but also deepens the mystery, hinting at knowledge and practices that may never be fully understood. The hidden cities are riddles in stone, inviting study, interpretation, and imagination. Pilgrimage and ritual often intersected with these pathways. Travelers followed precise routes, aligning movement with celestial cues, topographical markers, and sacred sites. The act of walking these trails was itself a form of learning and devotion, teaching endurance, observation, and alignment with cosmic and social order. The paths were as meaningful as the cities they connected, a physical and spiritual curriculum embedded into the landscape. The emotional and symbolic power of hidden cities endures. They remind us that civilization is more than its artifacts or written records. It is the integration of people, knowledge, landscape, and time. Each stone wall, terrace, and channel tells a story of resilience, ingenuity, and connection to forces both natural and spiritual. These cities invite reflection, awe, and humility, revealing that the forgotten civilization of the Andes was capable of harmonizing human life with both the earth and the cosmos. Ultimately, hidden cities and lost pathways reveal a culture that valued secrecy, sustainability, and sacred connection. Architecture, infrastructure, and landscape planning demonstrate a holistic worldview in which survival, ritual, and cosmic alignment were inseparable. By studying these hidden realms, modern observers glimpse the sophistication, ingenuity, and spiritual depth of a civilization that thrived in harmony with mountains, rivers, and the heavens, leaving an enduring legacy of mystery, mastery, and wonder. The forgotten civilization of the Andes lived in a world where every action, object, and space could carry sacred significance. Rituals and ceremonies were not mere traditions. They were lifelines, connecting people to the cosmos, to the mountains, to their ancestors, and to one another. Life itself was structured around these practices, which provided guidance, cohesion, and meaning. Through fire, water, textiles, music, dance, and offerings, the civilization created a symphony of devotion that permeated everyday existence, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. Ceremonial life was highly organized. Specific festivals marked agricultural cycles, celestial events, and transitions in human life. Planting and harvest seasons were punctuated by ritual offerings to ensure fertility and balance, while solstices and equinoxes were celebrated with processions, dances, and symbolic reenactments of creation myths. The community gathered not only to honor deities, but to reinforce social bonds, transmit knowledge, and align human action with cosmic order. Priests, shamans, and ritual specialists held central roles. They guided the preparation and execution of ceremonies, interpreting celestial signs, maintaining sacred spaces, and educating participants. These figures served as intermediaries between humans and the spiritual realm, ensuring that rituals were performed with precision and reverence. Their knowledge of the natural world, astronomical cycles, and symbolic language allowed them to orchestrate events that harmonized practical needs with spiritual intention. Music and sound were integral to ceremonial life. Instruments such as flutes, drums, and shell trumpets punctuated ritual space, creating rhythms that synchronized movement, prayer, and meditation. Sound amplified the emotional and spiritual impact of ceremonies, guiding participants into altered states of awareness and fostering a sense of unity and shared purpose. The resonance of music in plazas, terraces, and temples connected human experience with both natural acoustics and cosmic symbolism, transforming physical space into a vessel of sacred energy. Textiles, worn during ceremonies, conveyed meaning far beyond decoration. Elaborate garments marked social status, ritual role, or spiritual intent. Colors, patterns, and weaving techniques were selected to resonate with symbolic systems, linking participants visually and spiritually to cosmology, mythology, and cultural identity. Ceremonial dress turned individuals into living symbols, integrating human form into a broader spiritual narrative and reinforcing communal cohesion. Offerings were central to ritual practice. Objects of gold, textiles, food, and precious stones were presented to deities, ancestors, and natural forces. The act of offering was highly intentional, a demonstration of devotion, gratitude, or supplication. These offerings were sometimes buried, cast into rivers, or placed on altars, ensuring that spiritual and material worlds remained connected. Each gesture was a form of communication, reinforcing the principle that humans are participants in a larger cosmic order rather than masters of it. Ceremonies often involved movement through sacred space. Processions traced paths along terraces, stairways, and plazas, reflecting the landscape's symbolic geography. Pilgrimage routes from valleys to mountaintops were themselves educational and spiritual experiences, teaching endurance, observation, and alignment with the cosmos. Movement within ritual spaces reinforced relationships among participants, sacred sites, and celestial phenomena, transforming the act of walking into a form of learning and devotion. The emotional intensity of ceremonial life cannot be overstated. Participation evoked awe, reverence, fear, joy, and transcendence. Flames flickered on altars, water reflected sunlight or starlight, and music echoed across terraces, creating immersive experiences that shaped collective memory and individual consciousness. Rituals allowed people to experience their place in the universe, confront mortality, honor ancestors, and renew bonds with both natural and supernatural forces. Certain rituals were secret, reserved for initiates or specific social classes. Knowledge of symbolism, ceremonial choreography, and sacred language was often restricted, ensuring that spiritual and cultural understanding was preserved while maintaining societal hierarchy. Initiation ceremonies introduced participants to the deeper layers of ritual practice, teaching them how to interpret patterns in textiles, stars, water flow, and landscape. These practices reinforced both mystery and social cohesion, balancing accessibility with esoteric knowledge. Food and agricultural elements featured prominently in ceremonial life. Maize, potatoes, quinoa, and other staples were offered to deities, representing sustenance, gratitude, and the interdependence of humans and nature. Ritual planting, harvest, and distribution reinforced ecological knowledge and spiritual principles simultaneously. By linking subsistence practices with sacred intention, the civilization ensured that survival and devotion were inseparable, weaving practical necessity into cosmic understanding. Sacred architecture facilitated ceremonies. Plazas, terraces, stairways, and temples were designed to enhance visibility, acoustics, and alignment with celestial events. Strategic placement of stones, altars, and water channels allowed ceremonies to unfold with maximum symbolic and sensory impact. Architecture was both functional and spiritual, a canvas upon which movement, observation, and ritual could interact to create profound experiential and educational effects. The integration of rituals into daily life reveals a civilization in which spirituality and practicality were inseparable. Individuals did not merely perform ceremonies. They lived within a framework of cosmic and moral alignment, where work, observation, craft, and devotion reinforced one another. Life itself became ritualized, with each gesture, pathway, and object potentially carrying sacred meaning, ensuring that culture, knowledge, and belief persisted across generations. Ultimately, sacred rituals and ceremonial life illuminate the heart of Andean civilization. They reveal a culture in which human beings, nature, and the cosmos are inseparable, and where devotion, observation, and community action form a continuous dialogue across space and time. Participation in these ceremonies was not merely symbolic. It was a form of education, a spiritual practice, and a method of preserving knowledge. Through ritual, the Andes spoke across centuries, reminding modern observers that life, when infused with meaning, becomes a bridge between the earthly and the divine. Unlike other ancient civilizations, the Andes left behind no conventional written language. Yet the people communicated, recorded, and encoded their knowledge through an intricate system of symbols, textiles, carvings, and knots. These artifacts serve as windows into their worldview, their spiritual understanding, and their social organization. Each pattern, line, and motif is laden with meaning, reflecting a civilization that mastered abstraction, memory, and encoded knowledge without relying on conventional scripts. Quipus, the knotted cord systems, are among the most enigmatic and fascinating artifacts. Seemingly simple, they are capable of recording complex numerical data, calendrical information, and potentially narrative content. Each cord, knot, and color carries specific significance, creating a multidimensional record of economics, astronomy, ritual, and social structure. The precision and consistency suggest a standardized system, mastered by specialists who preserved critical knowledge across generations. Textiles were more than clothing. They were encoded messages. Patterns, colors, and weaving techniques conveyed social status, ritual role, geographic origin, and mythological reference. Certain motifs may have represented celestial events, agricultural cycles, or sacred narratives, turning wearable objects into portable libraries of meaning. Textiles served as tools of education, memory, and communication, enabling knowledge to move with the wearer across valleys, cities, and ceremonial centers. Carvings and rock art further illustrate the sophistication of symbolic language. Geometric shapes, spirals, animals, and abstract designs appear across temples, terraces, and sacred sites. These markings are not decorative alone. They encode cosmological principles, moral lessons, and historical memory. The placement, orientation, and repetition of these symbols suggest a conscious effort to create a landscape imbued with meaning, ensuring that observers engage with both the physical and spiritual dimensions of their world. Symbols functioned as mnemonic devices. Knowledge of astronomy, ritual practice, or social organization could be encoded visually, allowing individuals to learn and recall information without the need for spoken word or traditional writing. This system relied on shared understanding and careful instruction, creating a culture in which memory, observation, and interpretation were essential skills. Encoded symbols transformed landscapes, artifacts, and textiles into repositories of collective intelligence. The emotional resonance of these symbols is profound. Holding a carefully knotted quipu, tracing the patterns of a textile, or observing carvings on stone connects the modern observer with the cognitive and spiritual life of ancient peoples. These artifacts communicate intention, precision, and devotion, evoking wonder at the ingenuity required to encode complex systems into tactile and visual media. Symbols were not merely practical. They were imbued with sacred energy, linking human effort to divine or cosmic principles. The enigma deepens when considering the potential meanings lost to time. Many symbols remain only partially understood, leaving modern scholars to speculate about their full significance. Were they purely mnemonic? Did they encode mythological stories? Or did they serve as spiritual instruction? The absence of definitive translation preserves mystery, reminding us that the Andes cultivated knowledge systems designed for internal transmission rather than external consumption. These symbols challenge modern assumptions about literacy, information, and the ways knowledge can be preserved. Ceremonial spaces amplify the impact of symbolic language. Altars, terraces, and plazas are often adorned with carvings and motifs aligned with celestial or geographic markers. The environment itself becomes a medium of communication, turning observation, movement, and spatial orientation into acts of understanding. These integrated systems reveal a civilization in which meaning was embedded not only in objects, but in the very fabric of the landscape, a living, interactive text that guided thought and action. Symbols also reinforced social and spiritual hierarchies. Knowledge of interpretation, creation, and use was likely concentrated among priests, shamans, or specialized artisans. Mastery of symbolic systems conferred authority, enabling these individuals to guide ritual, record critical data, and transmit cultural memory. This specialization highlights the intersection of art, cognition, and power, illustrating a society in which communication, spirituality, and governance were deeply intertwined. The universality and adaptability of Andean symbolic systems are remarkable. While quipus, textiles, and carvings vary by region and time, the underlying principles of encoding, transmission, and meaning remain consistent. This consistency allowed for cultural cohesion across vast distances and diverse landscapes, linking valleys, mountains, and cities through shared symbolic frameworks. Symbols became vessels of continuity, carrying ideas, rituals, and social norms across generations despite environmental, political, or social change. Ultimately, the enigma of Andean texts and symbols teaches us about human ingenuity, memory, and the diversity of knowledge systems. These artifacts challenge the assumption that writing alone preserves culture and highlight the sophisticated ways in which humans encode, transmit, and interpret information. The Andes offer a reminder that literacy, knowledge, and meaning take many forms, and that profound understanding can exist beyond conventional text. Through symbols, knots, and patterns, the forgotten civilization of the Andes continues to speak across centuries. Each artifact invites observation, interpretation, and reflection, reminding us that knowledge is not only written, it is woven, carved, and encoded in ways that connect people to the cosmos, to each other, and to the enduring mysteries of existence. Their legacy challenges modern observers to expand their definition of communication, memory, and intelligence, offering a glimpse into a world where every symbol is alive with meaning, power, and cosmic resonance. The arrival of foreign invaders cast a long shadow over the Andes, threatening to erase a civilization that had flourished for millennia. Conquest brought violence, disease, and dislocation, shattering social structures and sacred traditions. Yet even in the face of devastation, elements of Andean culture endured, hidden in plain sight, woven into surviving practices, or buried beneath layers of history. The story of survival amidst destruction is both tragic and awe-inspiring, revealing resilience, ingenuity, and a commitment to preserving identity against overwhelming odds. European conquerors were unprepared for the complexity and sophistication of Andean societies. They encountered cities carved into cliffs, terraces irrigated with precision, advanced astronomical observatories, and symbolic systems that recorded knowledge without writing. The invaders, driven by greed and misunderstanding, often misinterpreted these systems as primitive or mysterious curiosities rather than evidence of an intricate, highly organized civilization. This underestimation allowed the culture's deeper structures to persist in subtle, hidden forms. Conquest disrupted political hierarchies. Local rulers, priests, and community leaders were deposed, killed, or coerced into service for the new powers. Sacred sites were desecrated, temples destroyed, and ceremonial objects looted. Yet, even amid violence, communities found ways to preserve essential practices. Rituals were adapted, knowledge transmitted orally, and sacred pathways maintained in secret. Survival required flexibility, ingenuity, and sometimes deliberate concealment, creating a culture of hidden resilience that allowed Andean identity to endure. Disease compounded the impact of conquest. Epidemics swept through the Andes, decimating populations and undermining social cohesion. Entire communities vanished, leaving terraces, cities, and ceremonial centers abandoned. The demographic collapse threatened cultural continuity, yet survivors carried forward memory, skills, and tradition. Knowledge encoded in oral narratives, symbolic artifacts, and ritual practice ensured that fragments of civilization remained alive, ready to re-emerge in times of relative stability. Resistance was both spiritual and practical. Communities maintained sacred sites, performed rituals, and preserved symbolic systems, even when external authorities sought to suppress them. Hidden caches of gold, textiles, and ceremonial objects were created to protect cultural treasures from looters. Secret ceremonies continued in valleys, mountaintops, and caves, allowing spiritual continuity and reinforcing communal identity. The civilization's knowledge of the landscape, astronomy, and ritual became a tool of survival, a bridge between past and future. Cultural adaptation played a vital role. Rituals, agricultural practices, and social structures were modified to respond to new pressures while retaining essential meaning. Symbols were reinterpreted, ceremonies adjusted to avoid persecution, and sacred knowledge transmitted in coded or covert forms. This flexibility demonstrates the civilization's ability to endure through transformation rather than resist change blindly, a strategy that ensured continuity despite the cataclysm of conquest. The psychological impact of conquest was profound. Survivors faced trauma, fear, and loss. Yet these experiences became embedded in cultural memory. Oral histories, myths, and symbolic narratives incorporated stories of invasion, survival, and resilience, preserving lessons for future generations. Memory and identity became acts of resistance, ensuring that the civilization's essence persisted even when its physical structures were destroyed or appropriated. Art and material culture reveal both loss and continuity. Gold was hidden or melted down, textiles were adapted or preserved, and ceremonial objects were secreted away. Archaeological evidence suggests deliberate concealment of treasures, sometimes in remote or inaccessible locations. This act of preservation reflects a sophisticated understanding of cultural value and a determination to protect sacred knowledge, even under the threat of annihilation. The invaders' influence introduced new challenges. Forced labor, conversion, and imposed governance altered the social fabric of the Andes. Yet the survivors integrated these changes selectively, maintaining core rituals, symbolic practices, and community networks. Hybridization became a survival strategy, blending imposed elements with indigenous practices, creating a dynamic cultural continuity that preserved the spirit of the civilization while adapting to new realities. Geography became an ally of survival. Remote valleys, high-altitude terraces, and hidden cities allowed communities to evade complete destruction. Sacred pathways, mountain shrines, and subterranean storage spaces enabled preservation of knowledge and ritual practice. Even under external pressure, the civilization's intimate knowledge of the landscape provided protection, ensuring that sacred wisdom and cultural identity could endure through generations. The endurance of Andean culture highlights the resilience of human memory and ingenuity. Despite violence, disease, and social upheaval, key elements of civilization, ritual practice, astronomical knowledge, symbolic systems, and agricultural expertise survived. These fragments became the foundation for cultural revival, transmission, and adaptation, reminding modern observers that survival is not merely physical, but deeply spiritual, intellectual, and symbolic. Ultimately, the shadow of conquest illuminates both tragedy and triumph. It reveals the cost of contact, the fragility of civilization, and the extraordinary lengths humans go to preserve knowledge and identity. Survivors of conquest did not merely endure. They adapted, encoded, and concealed, creating a living legacy that continues to inspire awe and curiosity. The Andes became a palimpsest of loss and resilience, where destruction could never entirely erase the brilliance of a civilization that understood the earth, the cosmos, and the human spirit with remarkable depth. The lesson of survival is profound. Even when physical structures crumble, when populations shrink, and when sacred spaces are desecrated, culture can persist through memory, adaptation, and symbolic continuity. The Andes teach that civilization is as much about what is preserved in spirit, practice, and knowledge as what is visible in stone and gold. It is a reminder that the essence of a people can endure in hidden forms, awaiting discovery, interpretation, and appreciation by future generations. Legends are the echoes of civilization's mind, whispers of knowledge and belief passed down through generations. In the Andes, myths served as more than entertainment. They were frameworks for understanding the cosmos, human behavior, and the forces of life and death. Hidden within these stories is a record of survival, astronomy, ritual, and morality, a repository of knowledge encoded in narrative form. Every legend was a lesson, every myth a map, guiding both individuals and communities through the complexities of existence. One recurring motif in Andean myths is the duality of nature, creation and destruction, light and shadow, water and fire. Mountains, rivers, stars, and animals are not merely elements of the environment. They are active participants in the moral and spiritual order. Heroes and deities interact with these forces, teaching humans how to live in harmony with the cosmos. Tales of floods, celestial battles, or heroic journeys encode practical knowledge alongside spiritual insight, preserving lessons that were crucial for survival in harsh and unpredictable landscapes. The role of ancestors in myth cannot be overstated. Spirits of the dead were not distant or forgotten. They were active, guiding communities, guarding sacred knowledge, and influencing daily life. Rituals, offerings, and ceremonies often mirrored mythological narratives, allowing humans to align their actions with the stories of the past. Ancestors were both teachers and protectors, and myths ensured that their lessons endured across generations. Through these stories, morality, survival, and spiritual practice became inseparable. Some myths hint at knowledge that has been partially lost or forgotten. Stories describe hidden cities, sacred technologies, or celestial secrets that ordinary humans cannot easily comprehend. Such narratives likely encoded esoteric knowledge, preserved only for those initiated into certain rituals or symbol systems. These tales blur the line between history and legend, reminding us that much of Andean knowledge was deliberately veiled accessible only to those trained to interpret signs, symbols, and cosmic cues. Animals and nature play central symbolic roles in myths. Condors soaring above peaks, serpents winding through rivers, and llamas traversing terraces embody lessons about power, agility, wisdom, and adaptation. Myths intertwine these creatures with human action, suggesting moral codes, agricultural guidance, or spiritual truths. Observation of natural behavior and its symbolic interpretation became both entertainment and education, a way of encoding empirical knowledge into memorable narrative forms. Rituals and myth are inseparable. Ceremonial acts often reenacted legendary events, bringing stories to life through movement, music, fire, and water. Participants did not merely recall tales, they embodied them, performing acts of devotion and learning. These ritualized narratives reinforced communal memory, aligned human activity with cosmic order, and transmitted values, skills, and sacred knowledge in a highly engaging and effective manner. Oral tradition was the lifeblood of mythic transmission. Without a formal writing system, stories were memorized, performed, and passed down through generations. Skilled storytellers, shamans, and elders preserved accuracy while allowing for adaptation to changing circumstances. This fluidity enabled myths to remain relevant, reflecting shifts in environment, society, or ritual practice while retaining core teachings. Oral culture ensured continuity, preserving wisdom even amid conquest, disease, and upheaval. The emotional power of myths is profound. Tales of heroism, betrayal, sacrifice, and cosmic justice evoke awe, fear, joy, and reverence. They teach empathy, courage, and ethical judgment, connecting listeners to the spiritual and natural world. Myths turn ordinary experiences into lessons of meaning and consequence, creating a moral universe in which humans are accountable to ancestors, deities, and the rhythms of the cosmos. Symbolism within myths reflects a civilization deeply attuned to patterns. Stars, rivers, mountains, and animals are not arbitrary. They encode practical, spiritual, and cosmic knowledge. A serpent in a river may indicate seasonal change, water management, or ritual timing. A condor rising at dawn may mark a ceremonial calendar. These symbolic layers allowed myths to function as both entertainment and a complex system of instruction, integrating observation, morality, and spiritual insight in a holistic framework. Some myths hint at lost technologies or forgotten practices. Stories of subterranean tunnels, celestial alignments, or sacred artifacts suggest that practical knowledge of architecture, astronomy, and ritual was encoded narratively. Modern scholars can glimpse the sophistication of the civilization, but many details remain hidden, challenging assumptions about literacy, knowledge, and the limits of human memory. The Andes were a place where storytelling, observation, and symbolic understanding intersected to preserve profound wisdom. Ultimately, legends and myths reveal a civilization that valued memory, teaching, and spiritual continuity above material permanence. Even when cities were abandoned, artifacts lost, and conquest reshaped the landscape, stories endured, carrying hidden knowledge across generations. Myths were not merely fiction. They were vessels of survival, morality, and cosmic understanding, preserving the essence of a culture that harmonized human life with a natural and celestial order. Through legends and myths, we can still hear the voices of the Andes. They speak of human ingenuity, resilience, and reverence for forces beyond comprehension. They invite reflection on what knowledge truly is, how it can be preserved, and how even in the shadows of loss, civilization leaves traces that endure. Myths connect us to the spirit, observation, and intelligence of a people who lived in dialogue with the cosmos, offering lessons that remain as compelling today as they were centuries ago. As we reach the summit of this journey through time and memory, the Andes stand not merely as mountains of stone and ice, but as a living testament to a civilization older, wiser, and more enigmatic than most of history acknowledges. The cities, rituals, symbols, and myths we have explored are not relics. They're a legacy whispering across centuries, urging us to reconsider what we think we know about human ingenuity, spirituality, and the capacity to endure. The revelation is clear. The forgotten civilization of the Andes has left a blueprint for understanding the world, written not in books, but in landscapes, patterns, and memory. The physical remnants of the Andes, terraces, aqueducts, cliffside cities, and ceremonial centers, reveal a society that mastered the environment without dominating it. Every stone wall and water channel reflects a deep understanding of balance, adaptation, and sustainability. Their agricultural techniques allowed them to thrive in extreme altitudes, transforming inhospitable slopes into fertile terraces. By observing, measuring, and harmonizing with natural rhythms, the civilization demonstrates a philosophy of coexistence, reminding us that human progress need not come at the expense of the world around us. Ritual and spirituality were central pillars of life, shaping social cohesion and guiding ethical conduct. Ceremonies involving fire, water, music, and textiles were more than symbolic. They were educational, social, and cosmic instruments. Every festival, every offering, every pattern in a textile encoded lessons about survival, morality, and human responsibility within the larger order of nature and the cosmos. These practices illustrate a society in which the mundane and the sacred were inseparable, revealing a worldview that understood human life as part of a vast, interconnected system. The symbolic systems, quipus, carvings, and textiles, demonstrate an extraordinary capacity for abstraction and memory. Knowledge was preserved, transmitted, and interpreted without conventional writing, showing that literacy is not confined to letters and ink. By encoding information in color, form, and structure, the Andes preserved complex data about astronomy, economy, ritual, and governance. This challenges modern assumptions about civilization and reminds us that human intelligence manifests in many forms, each adapted to its environment and cultural priorities. Even in the shadow of conquest and devastation, the civilization endured. Communities concealed knowledge, adapted rituals, and preserved symbolic systems, ensuring continuity despite trauma, disease, and external domination. Cultural survival was not passive. It was active, strategic, and profoundly intelligent. Knowledge was hidden in plain sight, encoded in landscape, ritual, and memory, awaiting future generations capable of recognizing and interpreting its meaning. This resilience underscores the human capacity to preserve identity, wisdom, and spirituality even in the most hostile conditions. Legends and myths carried knowledge across centuries, bridging the tangible and intangible. They encoded practical information about agriculture, astronomy, and morality, while also preserving the spiritual essence of the civilization. Myths served as vessels for memory, teaching, and reflection, ensuring that even if cities fell and artifacts were lost, the wisdom of the Andes would endure. These stories remind us that knowledge is living, not static, and that the past continues to guide those willing to listen and observe. The hidden cities and lost pathways are metaphors for the civilization itself, elusive, layered, and profound. Just as terraces cling to cliffs and trails wind through valleys, the knowledge of the Andes is not always visible at first glance. It requires exploration, patience, and insight. Modern archaeology has revealed only fragments of the story. Yet even these fragments astonish with their sophistication, revealing a people who understood geometry, astronomy, engineering, and ritual at a level that rivals civilizations often considered more advanced. The emotional power of the Andes is inseparable from its intellectual and spiritual legacy. Walking along a hidden terrace, tracing a quipu, or observing a ritual site is to feel the pulse of a people who lived in harmony with nature and the cosmos. Awe, reverence, and curiosity are the natural responses, and they remind us that the true value of civilization is not only in its structures or artifacts, but in the experience it evokes, the connection to something greater than ourselves. Perhaps the most profound lesson lies in the integration of all aspects of life. Agriculture, ritual, astronomy, social structure, art, and memory were not separate domains. They were threads woven into a single tapestry of human existence. This holistic approach ensured survival, fostered spiritual development, and preserved knowledge. Modern societies, fragmented by specialization and abstraction, might find inspiration in this model, a reminder that wisdom often lies in integration, not division, in the harmony of human life with the natural world. The Andes challenge our perception of history itself. They ask us to question the timelines, hierarchies, and definitions we impose upon human achievement. A civilization older than Egypt, capable of sophisticated urban planning, spiritual depth, and symbolic literacy, existed in the high mountains long before many so-called cradles of civilization arose. Its contributions have been overshadowed, its knowledge obscured, yet it endures, waiting for recognition, interpretation, and appreciation. As we reflect on the legacy of the Andes, we confront a deeper truth. History is not merely the record of conquest and survival, but the story of human potential, ingenuity, and resilience. The civilization of the Andes teaches us that knowledge can be encoded in landscape, ritual, symbol, and memory, that spirituality and practicality can coexist, and that even in the face of destruction, culture, wisdom, and identity can endure. Their legacy is both a mirror and a guide, reflecting what humanity is capable of and suggesting what it might strive to become. Finally, we are left with a subtle, haunting question. What if this secret changes how we see history? What if the hidden cities, the encoded symbols, the rituals, and the myths reveal truths about human potential that we have overlooked for centuries? The Andes compel us to reconsider assumptions, to value integration over isolation, observation over abstraction, and respect for the cosmos over domination of the world. Their story is not only a testament to what was, it is an invitation to imagine what could be. In the end, the forgotten civilization of the Andes continues to speak. It speaks through stone and soil, fire and water, knot and textile, myth and memory. It speaks of human creativity, endurance, and reverence for forces beyond comprehension. And it reminds us, with quiet insistence, that even the most hidden knowledge has the power to illuminate, transform, and inspire. For those who listen carefully, who explore patiently, and who reflect deeply, the Andes remain alive, offering a revelation that transcends time. Civilization is not merely built. It is lived, remembered, and honored in ways that endure long after the world has changed. Even today, the Andes continue to guard their secrets. Hidden valleys, cliffside terraces, and ancient ruins remain largely unexplored, swallowed by dense forests, high-altitude winds, and rugged terrain. Modern archaeology has revealed only fragments of this ancient civilization, leaving vast expanses as mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Every expedition carries the possibility of discovery, but also the realization that time has claimed much: artifacts eroded, cities buried, knowledge lost. Yet it is precisely this sense of the unknown that draws explorers, scholars, and dreamers alike to the mountains, each hoping to glimpse the ingenuity and wisdom of a people who lived long before modern records began. Satellite imaging, LiDAR technology, and remote sensing have revolutionized the search for lost cities, revealing terraces and roads hidden beneath dense vegetation. These tools have uncovered entire networks of settlements previously invisible to the naked eye, suggesting that the Andean civilization was even more extensive than previously believed. Yet technology alone cannot decode the full meaning of these sites. Physical remnants are only part of the story. Understanding their function, symbolism, and cultural significance requires a combination of observation, interpretation, and imagination. Modern explorers face the dual challenge of discovery and comprehension, piecing together a civilization encoded in landscape, architecture, and ritual. Local communities hold keys to this ongoing exploration. Oral traditions, place names, and ancestral knowledge often guide modern researchers to hidden sites. Elders speak of sacred mountains, underground channels, or ceremonial spaces that outsiders might overlook. This collaboration highlights the enduring connection between people and land, showing that survival, memory, and cultural continuity persist even after centuries of upheaval. The Andean landscape is not just an archaeological puzzle. It is a living archive where humans and mountains interact in ways that preserve memory, knowledge, and identity. Mysteries abound in the artifacts themselves. Quipus, textiles, carvings, and ceremonial objects continue to reveal surprises, with new patterns, symbols, and alignments being discovered regularly. Some knots suggest numerical systems previously unknown. Certain carvings hint at celestial observations or ritual practices still not fully understood. Each discovery deepens our awe and reminds us that the civilization's knowledge was not only practical, but profoundly sophisticated, blending observation, calculation, and spirituality in ways that challenge modern assumptions about pre-Columbian societies. Unexplained phenomena add to the sense of wonder. Astronomical alignments, precise stonework, and hidden pathways suggest knowledge that surpasses what conventional methods can explain. Some terraces and cities seem to follow patterns that correspond to star charts or solstices, indicating advanced astronomical understanding. The scale, precision, and subtlety of these constructions continue to confound scholars, hinting at methods, practices, or cosmologies that remain partially lost to history. The Andes, in this sense, function as a vast, open-air laboratory of human ingenuity, challenging the limits of what we think is possible in ancient technology and organization. Explorers frequently report a profound emotional and spiritual impact when encountering these sites. Standing on a high terrace, overlooking valleys that have remained unchanged for centuries, evokes awe, humility, and a sense of connection to something much larger than oneself. Water channels, ceremonial plazas, and carved stones are not mere artifacts. They are conduits of memory, devotion, and understanding. To walk these spaces is to feel the pulse of the civilization, to sense the rhythm of their lives, and to glimpse a worldview that harmonized human existence with the natural and cosmic order. Some mysteries may never be fully solved. Entire cities might remain hidden under centuries of erosion or vegetation. Symbolic systems may remain partially undeciphered. Rituals and oral traditions may have been lost entirely. Yet the pursuit of these mysteries is itself valuable. Each question, each fragment, each tentative interpretation invites curiosity, imagination, and reflection. The Andean civilization teaches us that not all knowledge is meant to be fully revealed. Some is preserved in waiting, challenging the observer to engage, explore, and honor the complexity of the past. Modern science and technology are only beginning to intersect with the ancient wisdom of the Andes. Archaeologists, historians, and indigenous scholars are working together to interpret the landscape, quipus, and ceremonial sites, seeking insights into agriculture, water management, social organization, and spiritual practice. These collaborations blend traditional knowledge with modern methods, creating new understanding while respecting the culture that produced it. The Andes remind us that knowledge is cumulative, relational, and often best understood through both observation and experience. The unresolved questions are also invitations. What was the full extent of their urban networks? How did they achieve astronomical and agricultural precision without conventional instruments? What insights into human cognition, spirituality, and social organization might we gain by studying their symbolic systems? Each mystery beckons the modern mind to explore, imagine, and connect with a civilization that defies easy categorization. The Andes are not merely a site of historical inquiry. They're a living dialogue across centuries, challenging contemporary assumptions and inspiring curiosity. Finally, the ongoing exploration of the Andes carries a subtle, emotional revelation. Even in lost civilizations, knowledge, spirit, and creativity endure. The mountains themselves, the hidden cities, the symbolic artifacts, and the oral traditions serve as a testament to human ingenuity, adaptability, and reverence for the world. As explorers, scholars, and dreamers uncover fragments of this civilization, they're not only learning about the past, they are reconnecting with the essence of human possibility, resilience, and wonder. The mysteries of the Andes remind us that history is alive, waiting for those willing to look, listen, and reflect. In the end, the Andes whisper a challenge to all who encounter them, to seek, to question, and to honor the legacy of those who came before. Unsolved mysteries are not failures of knowledge. They are invitations to curiosity, imagination, and reflection. They remind us that even the most hidden, long-forgotten civilization can illuminate the present, inspire the future, and awaken a deeper understanding of what it means to be human. The mountains continue to guard their secrets, but they also offer the promise that every discovery, every interpretation, every step along their hidden paths brings us closer to understanding a civilization that shaped landscapes, lives, and the very way humans perceive the world.